Close the gate, she doesn't come in tonight. Alexander Blackwood said it with a smile, one arm still wrapped around another woman on his own sofa in his own home while his wife stood in the doorway with rain dripping off her coat. And around that woman's throat hung the diamond necklace he had given Emma on their anniversary. He didn't hide it. He didn't stand up. He looked at his wife of 6 years the way a man looks at furniture he's already decided to replace, and he said, "You're home early." Vincent thought she'd forgive it by morning. 6 years earlier, Emma Wilson had promised herself she would never become a woman who apologized for existing. She had made that promise standing in a hospital corridor at 2 in the morning, holding her father's hand while a machine counted his heartbeats. She had made it again on her wedding day quietly, while everyone else was busy admiring the flowers. And somewhere between those 2 mornings, without ever noticing the exact day it happened, she had broken it. That was the thing about losing yourself. There was never a moment you could point to. There was no alarm. There was just a Tuesday and then another Tuesday, and one day you looked in the mirror and the woman looking back had learned to make herself small enough to fit through a door someone else was holding. Emma had gotten very good at fitting. She woke at 4:40 in the morning because Alexander liked his coffee at 5:15, and he liked it made by hand, not by a machine, because he said machines made everything taste like plastic. She had learned the exact temperature. She had learned the exact grind. She had learned that if the cup was 3 minutes late, he would not say anything, and the silence would be worse than anything he could have said. She remembered his meetings better than his assistant did. She remembered which board member's wife had just had surgery, and which investor's son had been rejected from Yale, and which of his rivals had been divorced twice, so that Alexander would never walk into a room unarmed. She wrote it all in a small notebook she kept in her purse, and when he needed something, she handed it to him without being asked. Doors don't close. People just stop knocking. Dr. Park had handed her the printout. Does your husband know? And Isabella had gone quiet, because there it was, the one question in the world she didn't have an answer ready for. Not yet, she'd said. Are you going to tell him tonight? I'm going to tell him tonight. Then get out of my office and go do it. That had been at 4:15 in the afternoon. It was almost 9 now, and the storm had swallowed the highway, and Isabella had driven 90 minutes in weather that had trucks pulled off on the shoulder, with their hazards blinking because she wanted to say it to his face. Not on a phone, not in a text, not through Marcus, to his face. She wanted to see the exact second Vincent Blackwood stopped being the most feared man in Chicago and became a man who was going to be somebody's father. She had thought about that moment for 6 hours. She had built it in her head like a house. She had it all wrong. Her phone rang through the car speakers. The screen said, Clara. Where are you? Clara said before Isabella could speak. Almost home. You drove in this, Isabella. There are cars and ditches. I've driven in worse. That's not a flex, that's a confession. A pause. Did you go? I went. And Isabella opened her mouth and found she couldn't say it. It was too big. It had been sitting in her chest all day like something swallowed whole. Isabella. 8 weeks. Isabella said. Clara made a sound Isabella had never heard her make before, and Clara Whitmore had been her friend since they were 19 years old and sharing an apartment with a broken radiator on the west side. Oh my God, I know. Oh my God, Bella, I know. You're crying. Are you crying? Pull over. I'm not pulling over. You're crying on a highway in a storm. I'm going to tell him tonight, Isabella said, and her voice cracked right down the middle of it. There was a long silence on the line, long enough that Isabella looked at the screen to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Clara, I'm here. Say something. I'm being careful about what I say. Don't be careful. Nobody's ever careful with me. Everyone's careful with him. Clara exhaled. Okay, you want it straight. I want it straight. He doesn't deserve to hear it in person. Isabella's jaw tightened. Clara, you asked. He's my husband. He's your husband when it's convenient for him. Bella, I've watched this for 10 years. I watched you sit in a hospital by yourself when your mother died because he was in Miami. I watched you plan your own anniversary. I watched you make excuses to my face with a smile on. Stop. And I love you. So I'm going to say the last part, and then I'll never say it again. That man has never once in 10 years chosen you when it cost him something." The wipers went back and forth, back and forth. "He will tonight," Isabella said. And she believed it. That was the part that would sit in her for the rest of her life. She had actually believed it. "Okay," Clara said softly. "Then call me after, whatever time. I don't care if it's 3 in the morning. "Clara." "Yeah." "If it's a girl, I'm not naming her after his mother." Clara laughed, wet and surprised. "Good. Now drive." The gates of the Blackwood estate came up out of the rain like something that had been waiting. Isabella slowed. She reached for the visor where the clicker was, and she was already thinking about the walk from the car to the door, whether she'd say it in the entry or wait until they were sitting down, whether she should hand him the envelope or just say the words. The gate didn't open. She pressed the button again. Nothing. She pressed it a third time and rolled her window down 2 inches, and the rain came in sideways and hit her cheek, and she leaned toward the intercom. "Danny," she said. "It's me. The gate's stuck." Danny Kovac had worked that gate for 6 years. He'd been at her Christmas table. She'd given his daughter $100 when she graduated high school cash in a card and made him promise not to tell Vincent because Vincent thought that kind of thing set a precedent. The intercom clicked on, and then it clicked off. Isabella sat there. "Danny," it clicked on again. "Mrs. Blackwood." His voice was wrong. It was small and it was fast, and it didn't sound like a man at a gate. It sounded like a man in a room with somebody standing over him. "Open the gate, Danny. I'm soaked." Silence. "Danny." "I can't do that, ma'am." Isabella actually laughed. It came out of her before she could stop it, that reflex laugh people have when the world says something that doesn't compute. "You can't, Danny, it's my house." "I know, ma'am. Is the system down?" "No, ma'am." "Then open the gate." Nothing. The rain hammered the roof of the car. She could see the house from where she sat. She could see the warm gold light in the front windows, could see the shape of the chandelier her mother-in-law had picked out and Isabella had never liked. Something cold started at the base of her spine and climbed. "Danny," she said, and her voice changed. It got very calm. Everyone who knew Isabella Carter well knew that the calm was the dangerous part. "Look at me. I know you can see me. Look at my face." A long pause. "I'm looking, ma'am." "Who told you not to open this gate?" "Ma'am." "Danny, who—" She heard him swallow. She heard it through the speaker, and that was how she knew it was true before he even said it. The order came from Mr. Blackwood. The car was very quiet. The engine hummed. The wipers went back and forth. "When?" Isabella asked. "About an hour ago." "What exactly did he say?" "Ma'am, please don't." "What exactly did he say, Danny?" Silence. "Danny, I have been kind to you for 6 years. I'm asking you for one honest sentence." She heard him breathe, and then so quietly she almost lost it under the rain. He said, "Close the gate. She doesn't come in tonight." Isabella looked at the house, and that was when she saw them. She would think about this for years. She would take it apart in her mind 1,000 times in 1,000 rooms at 3 in the morning. Because there was a part of her that kept insisting it must have been a mistake, a cousin, an employee, a business thing. But you know your own husband's hands. You know the way a man puts his hand on the small of a woman's back when he's being polite, and you know the way he does it when he isn't. Vincent crossed the front room, and there was a woman with him, and his hand was low on her spine, and he was laughing. He was laughing. Isabella had not heard Vincent Blackwood laugh like that in 4 years. She had a memory, an involuntary one, brutal and specific, the two of them on the floor of their first apartment, eating cold Chinese food out of the carton, and Vincent laughing so hard at something she'd said that he'd put his forehead on her knee to catch his breath. That laugh? He still had it. He just didn't spend it on her anymore. The woman turned. Just for a second, she was fully in the window, dark hair, a red dress, the kind of red you wear when you are not trying to be forgettable. Young, not a girl. A woman who knew exactly where she was and exactly whose house it was. And she was comfortable. That was the thing that went into Isabella like a nail. Not the beauty, not the dress. She was comfortable in that room. She knew where the doorway was. She didn't look around. She moved through Isabella's house the way you move through a place you've already been. "Ma'am," Danny said. "Ma'am, I'm sorry." Isabella reached over and turned the intercom volume down. Then she picked up her phone and called her husband. It rang 4 times. 4. She watched him take it out of his pocket. She watched him look at the screen. She watched him look at the screen for a full second and a half, and she watched him make a decision, and she watched him put it back in his pocket. Then she watched him take it out again and answer it. "Bella." His voice was easy, warm, the voice he used on people he was about to disappoint. "Where are you?" Isabella said. "Work. It's a mess tonight. The Hartley thing blew up." The rain came down. "Vincent." Where are you?" There was the smallest pause. A man like Vincent Blackwood didn't pause. He had built his entire life on never pausing. "I told you. I'm at the office." "Say it again." "Bella, what is this?" "Say it again, Vincent." Slowly. Through the window, she saw him turn away from the woman. She saw him lower his head and put 2 fingers to his forehead and take 3 steps toward the fireplace. "I'm at the office," he said. "Are you all right? You sound strange." And Isabella closed her eyes. Because there is a specific death that happens in a marriage, and it isn't the affair. The affair is just a fact. The death is the moment he lies to you, and it's so easy for him. It's so smooth. It comes out of him with no friction at all, and you realize that this is not the first lie. This is a lie that has had practice. This is a lie standing on top of 100 other lies, and every warm thing he said to you for a year is now under review. "I'm at the gate," Isabella said. Silence. Total silence. She could hear the rain on his end, which meant he had moved toward a window. "What?" he said. "I'm at the gate, Vincent. I'm sitting in my car at the gate of my house, and I've been sitting here for 6 minutes, and I'm looking at you right now." She heard him breathe out through his teeth. "Bella, do not." Her voice was still calm. "Do not say my name like that." "Let me explain. Who is she? It's not what you—" "Vincent." Isabella opened her eyes. "I want you to understand something. I am not asking because I don't know. I know. I'm asking to see if you'll tell me the truth one time. One time in 10 years. Just once. Who is she?" She saw him turn. She saw him look toward the gate through the rain, and she knew he couldn't see her, and she knew he was trying to. "Her name is Sienna," he said. And there it was. Not a name he stumbled over. Not a name he had to think about. A name he already had loaded right at the front of his mouth because he'd been saying it in his head for months. "Sienna," Isabella repeated. "It's not serious. That's worse. Bella. That is so much worse, Vincent. Do you understand that if you told me you loved her, I could at least respect it? But you shut me out of my own home for a woman who isn't even serious. I didn't shut you out. Danny told me." Pause. "Danny told me you said close the gate, she doesn't come in tonight." Isabella's voice finally broke one syllable of it, and she hated herself for it. "Those were the words. Danny said them to me twice. Danny's going to be looking for a job. And that right there." Isabella actually gasped once quietly and pressed her hand to her mouth, because the man had just been caught with another woman in his wife's house, and his first instinct, his first reflex, was to punish the person who told the truth. "There it is," she whispered. "What? Nothing. Nothing, Vincent. I finally get it, that's all." "Get what, Bella? Come inside. Come in the house and we'll talk. You're going to catch pneumonia out there. You wouldn't open the gate." "I'll open the gate right now." "I know you will," she said. "That's the whole problem. You'll open it now. You'll open it after." "Isabella, you know what I was doing today?" she asked. He hesitated. "What?" And that hesitation was the last one. That was the last thing he ever got from her for free. Because he didn't know. He didn't know where his wife had been for the last 12 hours. He hadn't asked. It had never once occurred to him to ask. "Nothing," she said. "I wasn't doing anything." "Bella, you're scaring me." "No," Isabella said. "I'm not. Not yet." The gate started to open. She watched it swing slow and heavy and expensive, and she watched the light from the house lay itself down on the wet drive like an invitation, and Isabella Carter put the car in reverse. "Bella." His voice sharpened. He'd heard the engine. "Bella, don't." "Good night, Vincent." "Isabella, do not drive away from me." "There it is again," she said. "Do you hear it? Do not drive away from me. Not please stay. Not I'm sorry. Do not drive away from me. Even now it's about what I'm allowed to do. That's not... I'm going to say one thing, and then I'm going to hang up, and I need you to actually hear it, because I'm only going to say it once, and I have never once in 10 years asked you for anything." She took a breath that hurt her ribs. "I came home tonight to give you something. I drove 90 minutes through a storm to put it in your hands. And you told a man at a gate that I don't come in. Give me what... It doesn't matter now. Isabella, give me what... It doesn't matter now," she said again, and she meant it, and that was the terrifying part, that she meant it. "That's what I'm telling you. It stopped mattering about 4 minutes ago." "Bella." She hung up. The phone rang again immediately. She let it ring. It rang 11 times in the next 2 minutes. She counted because counting gave her something to do with the part of her brain that wanted to scream. Then she pulled the car forward through the open gate up the drive and stopped it 50 feet short of the front steps. The front door opened. Of course it did. Vincent came out into the rain in a shirt worth more than Danny Kovac's monthly salary, and he didn't even flinch at the water. He came down the steps fast. Isabella got out of the car. "Bella!" He stopped 10 feet from her, and something in her face stopped him. "Come inside." "Is she still in there?" He didn't answer. "Vincent, is that woman still standing in my living room?" "Isabella." "Then no, I'm not coming inside." It meant nothing. "You keep saying that like it's a defense." Isabella laughed, and it came out wrong jagged. "You know what I keep thinking? I keep thinking about the guards. Vincent, there are 4 men who work this gate, and every one of them knew. Danny knew, which means Rob knew, which means Marcus knew." Vincent's jaw went hard. "Marcus knew," Isabella said. "Didn't he? Marcus works for me. Marcus taught me how to drive in the snow." Her voice finally rose, and it rose all the way 10 years of it, and the rain took it, and she didn't care. "Marcus stood in a hospital hallway with me for 6 hours when my mother was dying because you were in Miami. He held my hand, Vincent, and he's known. For how long? Isabella, how long?" The word came out of her like something torn. Vincent Blackwood, who had never in his adult life been raised to stood in the rain and said nothing. "Say it," Isabella said. "You've never been a coward. Don't start now. That's the one thing I always gave you. He's cruel, he's cold, he's ruthless, but he's never a coward." 7 months, he said. 7 months. Isabella stepped back once like the number had physical weight and it had hit her. 7 months. She went through them in her head fast, involuntary. February, her birthday, and he'd come home at midnight with pearls. March. April, the hospital, the biopsy that came back clean, and she'd cried in the parking garage alone. May, the anniversary. June, the anniversary. "Our anniversary," she said. "Vincent, you gave me a bracelet." "Bella, was she in the city that night? Don't do this. Was she in the city that night?" Silence. Isabella put a hand over her mouth again. Not to be dramatic, to physically stop the sound that wanted to come out of her body. "I need you to understand," Vincent said. And now his voice was different now. It was low and fast, and he was reaching for her arm. "I need you to understand that it was never Bella. Look at me. Look at me. You are my wife. You have always been my wife. That is not something I... Take your hand off me." He took his hand off her. That at least. That much. He'd never once put a hand on her in anger in 10 years, and he wasn't going to start, and she knew it, and it was the only thing left in the entire structure of him that hadn't collapsed. "I'm going to ask you something," Isabella said, "and I want you to answer it fast. Don't think. Don't build it. Just answer. Anything. If I'd called from the road tonight and said, 'Vincent, I need you right now. Drop everything,' would you have..." He opened his mouth, and he thought about it. He thought about it, half a second, maybe less. But she saw it. She'd been reading that face for 10 years. She'd been reading it in rooms full of men who lied for a living, and she saw the calculation move behind his eyes, like a fish under ice. "Yes," he said. "You hesitated." "I didn't—" "You hesitated, Vincent." Her voice went very quiet. "I've watched you tell a federal prosecutor a bald-faced lie without blinking, and you hesitated on that." The rain came down between them. "I would have come," he said. "You would have finished the meeting first." He didn't say anything. "You would have finished the meeting first," Isabella said, "and then you would have come and you would have been 40 minutes late, and you would have brought me something expensive, and I would have said thank you, and I would have meant it." That's the marriage. That's the whole marriage right there, and I've been calling it love for 10 years because I was too proud to call it what it was. And what was it? She looked at him. "A waiting room," she said. Vincent Blackwood flinched. She had never seen him flinch. Not when a man pulled a gun on him at a restaurant in 2019. Not when his father died. Not once. He flinched. "Bella," his voice had gone hoarse. "Please come inside. I'll get her out of the house right now. I'll put her in a car. I will never say her name again. That's the part that kills me." Isabella smiled, and there was nothing in it. "You still think this is about her? Then what is it about?" "It's about the gate." He stared at her. "You didn't cheat on me tonight, Vincent. You did that 7 months ago. Tonight you told a man that I don't come in." Her voice was shaking now, and she let it. "You want to know what I keep coming back to? It's not the woman. Women are just women. It's the fact that somewhere in your head there was a moment where you weighed it. Me at the gate in the rain against 40 minutes of your night. And I lost. Vincent, I lost. Bella, I lost." She reached into her pocket. For 1 second, she would remember for the rest of her life she felt the corner of the envelope against her fingers. It was right there. It was right there in her hand. 8 weeks, a heartbeat like a train through a wall. She could have handed it to him. She could have put it in his hands and watched the whole world reorganize itself around his face. And a voice inside her, a voice she had never heard before, a voice that sounded like her mother said, "No. He does not get to find out tonight. He does not get to be forgiven by a photograph. He does not get to skip the part where he sits in what he did." Isabella let go of the envelope. She pulled off her wedding ring instead. "Don't," Vincent said. She held it out. He didn't take it, so she opened her hand and let it drop, and it hit the wet stone and made a sound so small the rain almost ate it. "Isabella, 10 years, she said. 10 years, and I never asked you where you'd been. Not once. I want you to sit with that. Where are you going?" "That's the first honest question you've asked me in 7 months, she said, "and I'm not going to answer it." She got in the car. He came after her. He put his hand flat on the window, and he said her name, and she heard it through the glass muffled, and it sounded like a man calling from the other side of a wall. "Bella!" She put the car in gear. "Isabella!" She drove. She saw him in the mirror. He didn't chase the car. Men like Vincent Blackwood don't chase cars. He just stood there in the rain and got smaller, and behind him the house blazed with light, and somewhere inside it a woman in a red dress was standing in a room she had no right to stand in, and Isabella Carter drove through the open gate and out into the storm. She got 2 miles. Then she pulled over on the shoulder and put her forehead on the steering wheel and made a sound that she had never made in her life. One long, tearing sound with no words in it, both hands on her stomach, and the hazard lights ticking and the rain coming down on the roof like it had been hired to do it. It lasted 90 seconds. Then she sat up. She wiped her face with her sleeve. She looked in the mirror, and the woman looking back at her was not the woman who had driven to that house. "Okay," Isabella said out loud to nobody. To the child. "Okay, it's you and me." She took the phone out of the cup holder. 16 missed calls. She looked at them for a long moment. Then she turned the phone over, popped the case off, and pulled the SIM card out with her thumbnail. She rolled the window down and dropped it into the water running along the shoulder. Then she drove. She drove east, then south, then east again, and she didn't take the highway because Vincent had people on the highway. She knew that the way she knew everything about him from 10 years of listening to men talk in front of her like she was a lamp. At a gas station in Whiting, she bought a burner phone with cash and a bottle of water and a bag of pretzels because the nausea had started and salt was the only thing that touched it. She sat in the parking lot and called one number from memory. "Hello? It's me. Bella." Clara came awake instantly. "This isn't your number." "No. Where are you?" "Clara, I need you to listen and not ask questions for 60 seconds. Okay? He's been cheating for 7 months. Her name is Sienna. She was in my house tonight. He told the guards not to let me in." Clara didn't say a word. Clara Whitmore, who had never shut up in her life, said absolutely nothing. "I didn't tell him," Isabella said. "You didn't tell him about the baby." "No. Bella." "He doesn't get it," Isabella said, and her voice was perfectly steady now, and that was somehow more frightening than the crying. "He doesn't get to have it. Not tonight. Not while she's standing in my living room." "Okay," Clara breathed out. "Okay. What do you need?" "Money I've got. I need you to not come looking for me." "What?" "Clara, in about 6 hours, Marcus Reed is going to knock on your door. He'll be polite. He'll bring coffee. He'll ask you where I am. And he'll ask it in the nicest way you've ever been asked anything." Isabella closed her eyes. "And I need you to be able to tell him the truth, which is that you don't know." "Bella, don't do this to me. I love you. Tell him I sounded fine. Bella." She ended the call. Then she sat in the dark of that parking lot, 28 miles from the house that had her name on the deed with a dead ring finger and 8 weeks of a heartbeat under her hand, and she made herself say it out loud so it would be real. "You're on your own now," she said, "and you're going to be fine." She meant it as comfort. She had no idea sitting there that she was already being watched, that a dark sedan had been sitting at the end of that gas station lot with its lights off for 11 minutes. That the man in it had a photograph of her face taped to the dash, not a surveillance photo, a personal photo, one that had been taken inside her own house. That somebody had been waiting 7 months for the exact night Isabella Carter finally drove away from Vincent Blackwood alone. Because she was never the target of the affair. She was the target of the plan. And the woman in the red dress had not chosen that house by accident. Isabella pulled out of the lot at 11:52 p.m. The sedan pulled out at 11:53. Vincent Blackwood woke up at 6:10 in the morning and reached across the bed before he was fully conscious. The sheets were cold. He lay there for a second with his hand on the empty side, and his brain did what a man's brain does when it doesn't want to be awake yet, which is offer him a lie. "She's downstairs. She's in the kitchen. She's making coffee, and she's going to be quiet with me for 3 days, and then it'll pass." Because that was the pattern. 10 years of the pattern. He'd hurt her. She'd go silent. He'd buy something. She'd forgive him with her eyes before she forgave him with her mouth. He sat up. "Bella." "Nothing." He said it louder. "Bella." He went down the stairs in the same shirt he'd worn in the rain, and it had dried on him stiff, and there was still a smear on the collar. He hadn't looked at closely and didn't want to. Marcus Reed was standing at the bottom of the stairs. Marcus had been standing there for 2 hours. Vincent could tell by his face. "Where is she?" Vincent said. "Sir?" "Marcus, where is she?" "Her car's not on the property." "I know her car's not on the property. I watched her drive away." Vincent got to the last step and stopped. "She's at Clara's. Send someone." "I already did." And Marcus didn't answer right away, and that was the first crack. Marcus Reed had never once in 11 years failed to answer a question inside a second. "Marcus?" "Clara Whitmore says she hasn't seen her. Clara Whitmore's lying." "Yes, sir. Probably." Marcus's jaw moved. "But sir, I've been at this since 4. Her phone's off. Not going to voicemail. Off. That means the SIM's out or the battery's out. Her cards haven't moved. Nothing at either hotel she uses. Nothing at the house in Michigan. Nothing at her mother's plot. And I sent a man to sit there because that's where she goes when she's hurting." Vincent stared at him. "I know that," Marcus said quietly, "because I've driven her there 4 times. You've never been." The two men looked at each other. Say the rest of it, Vincent said. There's no rest of it. Marcus, you want me to say the rest of it in your house at 6 a.m? Yes. Marcus Reed put his hands in his pockets. He was a big man, 51 years old, and he'd taken a bullet in the hip for Vincent's father, and he had never once raised his voice in that house. He didn't raise it now. You told Danny Kovac to close the gate on your wife, he said, and then you put his head into a wall for asking twice. He's fine. He's got 4 stitches and a wife who won't let him come back. Then pay him. Sir, Marcus said it flat. That's the whole problem. That's the answer to everything in this house. Vincent's face changed, and Marcus watched it change and did not move and did not look away. And that was the second crack, because everybody looked away from Vincent Blackwood eventually. Everybody. You knew, Vincent said. Yes. 7 months. Yes. You never said a word. You never asked me a question, Marcus said. And I'm not your priest, sir. I'm your security. But you want to know what I did do every time you had me drive her somewhere, every time she got in that car, and asked me how my daughter's doing, and remembered the girl's name every single time I sat in the front seat and I hated myself. So no, I didn't say a word, and I'll carry that. But don't stand there and act surprised that a woman finally figured out what everyone in this house has known since November. The silence went on for a long time. Find her, Vincent said. I'm trying. Marcus. His voice dropped. Find her. At 7:40 in the morning, Sienna came down the stairs. She was wearing one of Isabella's robes. Vincent looked at her, and something happened behind his eyes that he did not have a name for. Take that off, he said. What? Take it off. Vincent, it was hanging on the... Take it off. She took it off. She stood there in the hallway holding it, and her face did something complicated, and she said, You're upset. Get dressed. Marcus is driving you home. Vincent, now. She's been gone 8 hours, and you're already... Say her name. Sienna blinked. What? Say her name, Vincent said. You've been in her house for 7 months. You've slept in her bed. You just put on her robe. Say her name. Sienna's mouth opened, and then it closed. And Vincent Blackwood stood there in his own hallway and understood something about himself that he would spend the rest of his life trying to outrun, that he'd chosen a woman who couldn't even say his wife's name out loud, and he had chosen her anyway, over and over, for 211 days. Get out of my house, he said. At 8:55 in the morning, Marcus Reed called from the road. Sir! Vincent knew. He knew from the syllable. Say it. Illinois State Police found a vehicle on a service road off 41. Registration comes back to Isabella Carter. Vincent didn't move. Sir? Say the rest of it. Sir, I'd rather you... Marcus. The driver's door was open, Marcus said. Keys in the ignition. Ignition on. Battery dead, so it ran itself out, which means it was open a long time. Purse is on the passenger seat. Her wallet's in it. $900 cash still in it. Vincent put his hand on the back of a chair. Rear quarter panel's got a paint transfer, Marcus said. Dark blue. And sir, it's not a scrape. It's a hit. Somebody put a car into her at speed and pushed her off the road. Where? Sir. Where? There's more. Then say it. Marcus Reed took a breath, and when he spoke, his voice was not the voice of a security chief. It was the voice of a man who had driven a woman to her mother's grave 4 times. There's blood on the driver's side headrest, he said. The chair broke. Vincent didn't remember doing it. He came back into himself 2 seconds later, standing over the wreck of it with his hand torn open and Marcus still talking in his ear. Not a lot of it, sir. Are you listening to me? It's not a lot. It's consistent with somebody's head hitting the rest on impact. It's not a killing amount of blood. Vincent, are you listening? I'm listening. Say it back to me. It's not a killing amount of blood. That's right. Vincent looked at his hand. It didn't hurt. He noted that with a kind of clinical distance that his hand was cut open and it didn't hurt. And he thought, so this is what it is. This is what everybody's been feeling around me for 20 years. There's one more thing, Marcus said. What? They found something on the floor of the car, passenger side. It got kicked under the seat. Marcus, I swear to God. It's a photograph, Marcus said. Black and white, small. Sir, it's got a name printed on the corner. It says Carter Isabella. And a date. Yesterday's date. Vincent's mouth had gone completely dry. What kind of photograph? Marcus was quiet. Marcus, what kind of photograph? Sir, it's an ultrasound. The world tilted. Vincent Blackwood sat down on the floor of his own hallway in a suit that cost $11,000 in a house with 40 rooms, and he sat down on the floor like a man whose legs had been taken from him. Say it again, he whispered. Vincent, say it again. It's an ultrasound photo, Marcus said, and his voice cracked. It actually cracked. It's dated yesterday. 8 weeks. Sir, she was 8 weeks pregnant. And Vincent heard himself make a sound he had never made before. That's what she came to tell me, he said. Sir? That's what she came to tell me, Marcus. He was staring at nothing. She drove 90 minutes through a storm. She said I came to give you something. She said I drove 90 minutes to put it in your hands. And I said, what? And she said, it doesn't matter now. Vincent. She had it in her coat. He put his hand over his eyes. She had it in her coat, Marcus. She had her hand in her pocket. I watched her put her hand in her pocket, and I thought she was going for her keys. Sir, listen to me. I told a man to close the gate. Sir, I told a man to close the gate on my pregnant wife. At 10:20 in the morning, Vincent Blackwood stood on a service road off Route 41 and looked at his wife's car. He didn't touch it. That was the thing that scared Marcus most. Vincent Blackwood, who touched everything, who owned everything he looked at, stood 4 feet from that car with his hands at his sides and would not touch it. Talk, Vincent said. Marcus talked. Tire marks say she was doing about 55. Somebody came up on her left rear, hit her at an angle, spun her. She corrected. She's a good driver, sir. She almost saved it. And then they hit her again. Again. Yes, sir. So it wasn't an accident. It wasn't even close to an accident. The second hit is the tell. The second hit means somebody wanted her stopped. Vincent's eyes moved along the road. Cameras, he said. Gas station 2 miles back. I've already got it. And, sir, that's what I need to show you. And I need you to hold yourself together for the next 4 minutes because you're going to want to break something and there's a state trooper 40 feet away. Marcus turned the tablet around. Vincent watched his wife pull into a gas station at 11:31 p.m. He watched her get out of the car and stand for a second with her hand on her stomach. He watched her buy a burner phone and a bottle of water and a bag of pretzels. He watched her sit in the car for 11 minutes. He watched her cry. Marcus, he said, keep watching. At 11:52, Isabella pulled out of the lot. At 11:53, a dark blue sedan pulled out behind her. Run it back, Vincent said. Marcus ran it back. Stop, there. Vincent's finger came down on the screen. That car was already there. Yes, sir. How long? It pulls in at 11:19. Vincent went very still. She got there at 11:31, he said. Yes, sir. That car was there 12 minutes before my wife was. Yes, sir. Marcus. Vincent's voice was almost gentle. That means they weren't following her. No, sir. That means they were waiting. That's right. Which means somebody knew, Vincent said, which road she'd take out of a city with 900 roads at midnight on a night nobody on Earth could have predicted she'd be driving at all. Marcus said nothing. Say it, Vincent said. Sir? Marcus, you've been standing there for 2 hours with it in your mouth. Say it. Marcus Reed looked at his boss. Nobody could have known she'd leave that house last night, he said, unless they knew she'd have a reason to. At 12:40 in the afternoon, Vincent Blackwood called Sienna Vale's phone. It rang once. Vincent, her voice was bright, too bright. You know you were really cruel to me this... Where are you? Home. Why? Stay there. He hung up. Sir, Marcus said, let me send somebody. No. Vincent, if she's what you think she is, then you walking through that door alone is exactly what somebody's been building for 7 tat-tat. Marcus, Vincent turned. Do you know what I did last night at 11 o'clock while my wife was sitting in a gas station parking lot with a photograph of my child in her coat? Marcus didn't answer. I was laughing, Vincent said. She saw me. She told me she saw me. She said I heard you laugh, and I haven't heard you laugh like that in 4 years. His face didn't move at all. So no, you're not sending anybody. This one's mine. At 1:15 in the afternoon, Sienna Vale opened her door, and Vincent Blackwood walked past her without a word and sat down in her living room. Well, she said. That's dramatic. Sit down. Vincent. Sit down. She sat. How long have you been in Chicago? He said. You know how long. Answer the question. 8 months. She smiled. You met me in November at the Hartley party. Vincent nodded slowly. You were at the Hartley party? Yes. Who brought you? Something flickered. It was very small. It was maybe 1/5 of a second. But Vincent Blackwood had spent 30 years in rooms where the difference between 1/5 of a second and nothing was the difference between walking out and not. Nobody brought me, Sienna said. I came with friends. Name one. Vincent, name one friend. This is insane. Your wife walks out on you and you come here and interrogate. My wife didn't walk out on me. Vincent leaned forward. My wife was run off a service road at midnight by a dark blue sedan that was sitting in a gas station lot 12 minutes before she got there. There's blood on her headrest, Sienna. Her purse is still in the car. $900 untouched. Sienna's face went white, and Vincent watched it go white, and he watched exactly how it went white, and something in his chest turned to ice because it went white in the wrong order. She wasn't shocked. She was scared. There's a difference. Shocked comes from the outside in, scared comes from the inside out. And Sienna Vale's face didn't crumple like a woman hearing something horrible for the first time. It hardened like a woman doing math. You already knew, Vincent said. What no? You already knew. Vincent, I swear to God, you're not asking me if she's alive. Sienna's mouth opened. A woman hears that a man's wife is missing and there's blood in the car, Vincent said. And the first thing out of her mouth, even if she hates the woman, even if she's glad, the first thing is, oh my God, is she alive? That's not decency. That's reflex. Everybody's got it. He tilted his head. You didn't. I'm in shock. You said I swear to God, twice. Sienna, you're defending yourself. His voice was almost kind. I didn't accuse you of anything. The silence in that room was total. And then Sienna Vale did the smartest thing she'd done in 7 months. She stopped acting. Her shoulders dropped, her face went flat, and when she spoke, her voice had a completely different accent underneath it, a harder one, an East Side one. You need to leave, she said. Vincent didn't move. Vincent! Her hands were shaking now, and they weren't shaking for him. I'm telling you this because it's the only decent thing I've got left in me. Get out of my apartment and don't come back and don't say my name to anybody, please. Who are you afraid of? Get out. Sienna. He stood up. He crossed the room. He crouched down in front of her chair so his face was level with hers, and he did not touch her, and that was somehow worse. Look at me. My wife is 8 weeks pregnant. She's got a head wound. She's been gone for 14 hours. And I am the only person in the state of Illinois who can make whoever has her wish they'd never been born. Sienna's eyes were wet. So I'm going to ask you one time, Vincent said. Who sent you? You don't understand. Who sent you to that party? Vincent, who sent you? And Sienna Vale started to cry. I didn't know, she said. I swear on my mother I didn't know about the car. I didn't know about a car. They told me it was money. They told me it was leverage. They told me get close, learn the house, learn the schedule. That's it. That's all, nobody gets touched. Vincent's world went silent. Who? He said. He'll kill me. Who? You don't say his name out loud, Vincent. That's the whole... Who? Voss, she screamed. Adrian Voss. And Vincent Blackwood stopped breathing. At 1:50 in the afternoon, Marcus Reed watched his boss come out of that building and knew from 20 feet away across a street through a windshield that everything had changed. Vincent got in the car and closed the door. Sir? Nothing. Sir. Adrian Voss, Vincent said. Marcus's hands came off the wheel. That's not possible. Say it again, Vincent said. I'd like to hear somebody say it again. Vincent Adrian Voss is dead. Adrian Voss has been dead for 6 years. We were there. I was standing next to you. There was a body. There was a fire, Vincent said. There was a fire and there was a body, and there were dental records from a clinic in Gary that closed 9 months later. He stared through the windshield. Marcus, who paid for those dental records? Marcus didn't answer. I did, Vincent said. I paid for the confirmation. I paid a man $400,000 to tell me Adrian Voss was dead, and he told me exactly what I paid to hear, and I never checked. I never checked Marcus because I wanted it to be true. Because if Voss was alive, then what I did to his family in 2019 wasn't finished. Sir, Marcus's voice was hoarse. What you did in 2019, I know what I did in 2019. His wife was in that house. I know what I did. Vincent's fist came down on the dash so hard the vent cracked. I know. The car was quiet. She was pregnant too, Marcus said quietly. Voss's wife, sir. She was pregnant too. And Vincent Blackwood closed his eyes, and for the first time in his adult life he understood that the universe is not chaotic. It is a bookkeeper. It is patient and it is exact, and it does not forget a single line. 7 months, he said. Sir, he's been in my life for 7 months. He didn't come at my business. He didn't come at my money. He didn't come at me. Vincent's voice was barely there. He put a woman in my house and he waited. He waited for me to do it myself, Marcus. He didn't have to make me betray her. He just had to be patient enough. Vincent, he knew me better than my own wife did, Vincent said. She still thought I'd choose her. He knew I wouldn't. At 3:10 in the afternoon, Vincent's phone rang with a number that didn't exist. He looked at it. Sir, Marcus said. Sir, don't. Vincent answered it. Vincent Blackwood. The voice was warm. That was the horror of it. It was warm and it was unhurried, and it was a voice that had waited 6 years to make this exact phone call and was going to enjoy every second of it. Adrian, Vincent said, you sound tired. Where is she? Somewhere safe, warm, dry, which is more than you managed last night. Vincent's hand tightened on the phone until the case creaked. How much? He said. Oh, Vincent. Adrian Voss laughed softly, delighted. Oh, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. 20 seconds in and you're already reaching for the checkbook. Do you know that's exactly what you said in 2019? To me, on my own driveway, you said how much? Adrian, I don't want your money. I've never wanted your money. Then what? I want you to understand something first, Voss said. I need you to be very clear on the arithmetic, because the arithmetic is the point. Are you clear, Vincent? Are you listening to me? I'm listening. I watched you for 211 days, Adrian Voss said. Every single day you had a choice. Every single day you could have picked her. I gave you 211 chances, Vincent. That's more than you gave me. Vincent couldn't speak. She's a remarkable woman, your wife, Voss said. Do you know what she said to Sienna at the Whitfield benefit? In April, Sienna was nervous. Sienna dropped a glass. And your wife, the woman she was sent to destroy, knelt down on the floor in a $4,000 dress and picked up the glass with her bare hands so a stranger wouldn't be embarrassed. A pause. Sienna cried in the car afterward. Did you know that I almost pulled her out? That's the closest you ever came to being safe. Vincent, and you never even knew it happened. What do you want? And then last night, Voss said. Last night at the very end of it, she came to you carrying your child Vincent. Your child. She drove through a storm, and you told a man at a gate that she doesn't come in. His voice dropped, and all the warmth went out of it, and what was underneath was 6 years old and had been kept in the dark. I want you to know that I didn't do that. That was you. I built the room, Vincent. You walked into it. Adrian, I swear to God, if you touch her, she's got 4 stitches above her left eye, Voss said. Vincent made a sound. She was awake for it, Voss said. She didn't scream, not once. She asked the man doing it whether the anesthetic was safe for the baby. That's what she asked. 8 weeks pregnant, taken off a road at midnight, and her first question is about someone else. He let that sit. Your wife has more spine in her left hand than you've got in your whole body, and you had her for 10 years, and you laughed at another woman's joke while she sat in the rain. Tell me what you want. You'll know in 48 hours. Adrian. Oh, and Vincent. One more thing. Adrian Voss's voice went almost tender. She asked about you. Vincent stopped. When they brought her in, bleeding, terrified in the dark with a head wound, Voss let the silence stretch until it hurt. She said one sentence. Do you want to know what it was? Yes. Say please. Please. She said, he doesn't know about the baby. Voss paused. Not save me. Not where am I. Not who are you. 16 hours ago, your wife's head hit a headrest hard enough to open her scalp, and the first thought that formed in it was that you didn't know. Vincent Blackwood put his hand over his mouth. That's what I took from you, Adrian Voss said. Not her. You'd already thrown her away? I just went and picked her up off the ground where you left her. The line went dead. Vincent sat in that car with the phone still against his ear for 11 seconds. Then he said very quietly, Marcus. Sir, get everyone. Sir, we don't know where... Get everyone, Vincent said. Every man, every favor, every name in the book, every account, every judge, every cop I own. All of it. Today. Vincent, if you burn all of it at once, there's no coming back. You understand that everything your father built, everything you built, you spend it all in one night, you're finished. You're nobody. You're a man in a house. Vincent Blackwood turned his head and looked at him. And Marcus Reed, who had known him for 11 years, who had watched him bury his father without crying, who had never once seen anything behind those eyes but weather. Marcus looked at him and had to look away. Marcus, Vincent said, do you know what I would give right now this second to be a man in a house? Neither of them said anything for a while. Then Marcus started the car. At 4:55 in the afternoon, Clara Whitmore opened her door and found Vincent Blackwood standing on her step, in the same shirt from the night before, with his hand wrapped in a bar towel. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she slapped him across the face as hard as she could. Nobody moved. 2 of his men were on the walkway. Neither of them moved because Marcus put his hand out. Vincent didn't touch his face. Do it again if you want, he said. Clara's eyes filled. Where is she? She said. I don't know. You don't, Vincent. You own this city. I know. You have 3 police captains in your pocket. You have, I know. Then where is she? I don't know, Clara. His voice broke apart. I don't know. I'm asking you. I'm standing on your step and I'm asking you. That's what I am now. I'm a man asking. Clara Whitmore put her hand over her mouth and started to cry. She called me, she said, last night, from a gas station. I know. She said you'd send Marcus, and she said to tell him the truth, because she didn't want me in it. Clara's face twisted. She was protecting me, Vincent. From you. 6 hours after you locked her out of her own house, she was still thinking about who else might get hurt. Clara. She was so happy, Clara whispered. Vincent's whole body went rigid. She called me from the road before. She was crying. She could barely say it. Clara wiped her face with both hands. She said 8 weeks. She said, Clara, I'm going to tell him tonight. And I said, God help me. I said he doesn't deserve to hear it in person. Vincent closed his eyes. And she got mad at me, Clara said. She defended you. 20 minutes before you put her out in the rain, that woman sat in a car in a storm and defended you to me. I know. She said, he will tonight. Those were her words. I said that man has never once chosen you when it cost him something, and she said, he will tonight. Vincent Blackwood, 43 years old, who had never in his life apologized to anyone, put his back against the doorframe of a woman who hated him and slid down until he was sitting on her step. Clara, he said, don't. I need one thing from you. You don't get to need things. One thing. He looked up at her. When I get her back. If she never speaks to me again, that's fine. That's fair. I'm not asking for that. His voice went to nothing. But she's going to need somebody who was on her side the whole time, and that was never me. It was always you. Clara stared down at him. You're not going to get her back, she said. Not the way you mean. I know. Then why? Vincent looked at his hands. Because she asked one question, he said. She's got 4 stitches in her head, and she's 8 weeks pregnant, and she's in the dark somewhere, and she asked one question, and it wasn't about herself. He looked up. She said he doesn't know about the baby. Clara made a small, terrible sound. She was worried about me, Vincent said. Clara, she was worried about me. And then the most feared man in Chicago put his face in his hands on a stranger's front step and cried like something inside him had finally broken loose after 43 years. And Clara Whitmore stood over him and did not comfort him and did not tell him to stop and let him do it. At 6:20 that evening, Vincent Blackwood walked into a room in a building on the west side where 19 men were waiting. They stood up when he came in. They always did. "Sit," he said. They sat. Vincent stood at the head of that table with his hand wrapped in a bar towel and looked at each of them one at a time, and when he spoke, his voice was so quiet that men leaned forward to hear it. "Adrian Voss is alive," he said. The room made a noise. "He has my wife." Vincent's eyes moved. "She's pregnant. She's hurt. And I'm the reason she was on that road." Nobody breathed. "So here's what happens now," Vincent said. "Everything stops. Every route, every account, every man on every corner. I don't care what it costs. I don't care what we lose. Tonight this whole thing exists for one reason and one reason only, and it's not money, and it's not territory, and it's not me." He put both hands flat on the table. "Anybody who's not comfortable with that can stand up and walk out right now, and nothing happens to him. I mean that. Walk out. No hard feelings." Nobody moved. "Good," Vincent said. Then Marcus Reed came through the door fast, and every head turned because Marcus Reed did not come through doors fast. "Sir." "What?" Marcus was holding his phone out and his hand was not steady. "A number just came through," he said. "It's not Voss." "Then who?" "Sir, I don't know. It's a woman. She won't give a name. She's been on the line for 90 seconds and she won't hang up, and she keeps saying the same thing over and over." Vincent took the phone. He put it to his ear, and a woman's voice, shaking, whispering close, said, "Mr. Blackwood, listen to me very carefully. I'm the one who patched your wife's head last night. She's alive, and she's not where he told you she is." "Say that again," Vincent said. "I said she's not where he told you she is." "Who is this? That's not a question you want the answer to." "Ma'am?" Vincent turned his back on 19 men and walked to the far wall. "You called me. You've been holding for 90 seconds. That means you want something." "I don't want anything. Everybody wants something." "That's your whole problem, Mr. Blackwood," the woman said. "That right there, that's why she's in a room with a hole in her head." Marcus was watching his face. He would say later that he'd never seen a man absorb a hit like that and stay standing. "Fair," Vincent said quietly. "That's fair. Tell me your name." "No." "Then tell me about the stitches." 4, above the left eye into the hairline. It's a scalp laceration, so it bled like the end of the world, and scalp always does, and it's the reason he sounded so pleased with himself when he described it to you. He wanted you picturing worse. That's what he does. He doesn't lie, he just arranges the truth so it cuts you. Vincent closed his eyes. "Is she—" "She's alive." "The baby." There was a pause on the line, and it went on long enough that Vincent's whole body turned to stone. "I don't have an ultrasound in a warehouse, Mr. Blackwood," the woman said. "What I have is a blood pressure cuff and my hands and 31 years of nursing. And what I can tell you is she's not cramping, she's not bleeding, and she's got a pulse like a metronome. That's what I've got. It's not nothing." Vincent put his forehead against the wall. "Okay," he said. "Are you going to be all right?" "Ma'am, I'm not sure that's the—" "Because I need you sharp for the next 4 minutes," she said. "And men fall apart at the worst possible time, and I have watched it in 300 rooms." Vincent straightened up. "I'm sharp." "Good. Then listen, he's going to give you a location. Sometime in the next 40 hours. It'll be a warehouse on the water. It'll be south, and it'll look right, and there'll be men there, and he'll make sure you can find out just enough to believe you found it yourself. And she won't be there," the woman said. The room behind Vincent had gone silent. 19 men watching the back of his head. "Say the rest," Vincent said. "He doesn't want to trade her. He never wanted to trade her. There's no exchange, Mr. Blackwood. There's no number. He's going to hand you an address and let you spend everything you own getting to it. And while you're doing that, he's going to be somewhere else with your wife. And when you finally kick the door in and the room is empty, that's the point. That's the whole thing. That's what he's been building for 6 years. How do you know that? Because he told me. Why would he tell you? Because he doesn't think of me as a person, she said. He thinks of me as a pair of hands. You'd understand that. You've been doing it your whole life. Vincent didn't answer. That wasn't a shot, she said more quietly. I'm sorry. I've been awake for 30 hours. Take the shot. Take all of them. Vincent's voice had gone rough. Ma'am, why are you calling me? Because of the pretzels, she said. What? She had a bag of pretzels in her coat pocket when they brought her in. Broken all to hell, half of them dust. The woman's voice wobbled and steadied. And when she came around, she was bleeding through my hands and she couldn't see straight. And she said, "Are the pretzels still there?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "It's the only thing that keeps the sickness down. I need them. I have to eat." Vincent's hand was over his mouth. So I sat on a concrete floor at 2 a.m. and fed a woman broken pretzels out of a plastic bag while I stitched her head, the nurse said. And she said, "Thank you, every single one, every time. Thank you, thank you." Her voice broke. 31 years, Mr. Blackwood, and nobody has ever thanked me for anything. And I looked at that woman and I thought, whatever this is, I am on the wrong side of it. Vincent Blackwood couldn't speak. "So no," she said. "I don't want anything. I want to be able to look at my hands. Tell me where she is." "I don't know." "Ma'am?" "They moved me blind. Van No Windows Hood the whole thing. I've been to her twice, and I couldn't put either place on a map with a gun to my head." A breath. "But I know it's 40 minutes from wherever they keep me, and I know it's north because both times we crossed a drawbridge, and the second time it was up, and I counted 11 minutes sitting there, and I heard a train underneath." Vincent turned around so fast Marcus flinched. "Write that down," he said. "Drawbridge. Train underneath. North." 3 men were already writing. "Ma'am, when do you see her again?" "Tomorrow morning. To pull the sutures if they're clean." "Can you get her a message?" A long silence. "That would be very stupid of me," the nurse said. "Yes." "They'd kill me." "Yes." "He'd make it slow and he'd do it in front of the others because that's how he keeps a room." "Yes," Vincent said. "I'm asking anyway, and I've never asked anybody for anything in my life, so I'm doing it badly." The line was quiet. "What's the message?" she said. Vincent Blackwood stood in a room with 19 men watching him and had absolutely no idea what to say. He'd had 10 years. He'd had 211 days. He'd had 90 minutes on a phone in a storm while his wife told him she'd come to give him something, and he'd said, "What?" And she'd said, "It doesn't matter now." "Tell her?" He stopped. "Mr. Blackwood." "I don't have anything," Vincent said. "Ma'am, I'm standing here and I don't have anything to say to her. Everything I could say, I should have said in April, or in June, or last night at a gate." "Then say that." "What?" "Say that," the nurse said. "Men like you always want the big line, the one that fixes it. There isn't one. So give her the small one and give her the true one, because a true small thing is the only thing that travels in a room like that." Vincent stood very still. "Tell her I know," he said. "Tell her I know about the baby, and I know she was going to tell me at the door, and I know I closed the gate." His voice went to almost nothing. "And tell her I'm not asking her to forgive me. Tell her I'm just coming, that's all. Tell her I'm coming and she doesn't owe me anything for it." The nurse didn't say anything for a while. "That's not a bad message," she said. At 8:15 that night, Marcus Reed put a map on the table, and 13 men stood around it. "There are 9 drawbridges in the metro with rail underneath," Marcus said. "That's the whole universe. 9. "Cut it," Vincent said. 4 are inside the city, and you don't drive a hooded woman through the loop at 2 a.m, so they're out. That's 5. Marcus's finger moved. 2 of those 5 don't go up between midnight and 6. Nobody's requesting a lift at that hour on those 2, so it's 3. 3. 3, sir. Vincent looked at the map for a long time. "Marcus." "Sir?" "Don't touch them." The room turned. "Sir, don't put a single man near any of the 3. Vincent said. "Don't drive past them. Don't fly anything over them. Nobody so much as buys gas within 4 miles of those bridges." "Vincent," one of the older men said, "that's the only thread we've got." "That's right." Vincent finally looked up. "And Voss knows I've got Sienna, which means Voss knows Sienna gave me his name, which means Voss has been sitting since 2 o'clock this afternoon waiting to see what I do with it." Nobody moved. "He knows I'll find out about the drawbridge," Vincent said. "Maybe not from her, from somebody. He's been running me for 7 months, gentlemen. He knows the shape of my head better than I do. So the second we move on those bridges, he learns 2 things. He learns I've got a source inside, and he learns exactly how close I am. So what do? Vincent put his hands on the table. "We do exactly what he expects," he said. "We're going to burn this city down, looking in every wrong place he's already picked out for us. We're going to be loud and stupid and desperate, and we're going to look like a man who's lost his mind." "Sir, that's not a plan It's the only plan there is." Vincent's eyes came up. "Because there's one thing Adrian Voss has never once seen me do in 6 years, and it's the only card I've got left." "What's that?" "Be patient," Vincent said. At 11:50 that night, Vincent Blackwood sat alone in his kitchen and looked at his wife's coffee cup. It was in the sink. She'd used it the morning before. There was a ring in the bottom of it. He'd been looking at it for 40 minutes. Marcus stood in the doorway for maybe 5 of those minutes before he said anything. "You should sleep." "No." "Sir." "Marcus, do you know what I was doing on our anniversary?" Marcus didn't answer. "June 9th. I bought her a bracelet. $18,000. I had Rosa pick it up because I was busy." Vincent's voice was flat. "And she opened it and her face did this thing, and she said thank you, and she put it on. And I remember thinking, that went well." "Vincent." "She knew," Vincent said. "Didn't she? She knew Rosa picked it up. She knew, and she put it on anyway, and she wore it for a month." Marcus was quiet. "Say it." "She asked me," Marcus said, "in the car. She said, 'Marcus, did he pick this out?' And she was smiling when she asked." "What did you say?" "I said, 'Yes, sir, he picked it out.'" Vincent nodded slowly. "And she said," Marcus's throat moved. "She said, 'Okay,'" he said. "And then she looked out the window for about 10 miles and she didn't say anything else, and then she asked about my daughter." Vincent Blackwood put his hand over his eyes. "She let me have it," he said. "She let me have it. She knew, and she let me keep it because if she said it out loud, then it was real, and then she'd have to do something about it, and she didn't want to have to do something about it. Marcus, she was protecting me from herself for 10 years, sir. And then last night for 1 hour she stopped." Vincent's voice cracked all the way open. "That's all it was, 1 hour. She stopped protecting me for 1 hour, and she drove out of that gate, and a man was waiting." The kitchen was quiet. "If she'd have come inside," Vincent said, "if I'd have opened that gate, Marcus, he couldn't have touched her." Marcus didn't say anything because there was nothing to say and because it was true. At 9:20 the next morning, the nurse called. "I saw her." Vincent stood up so fast his chair went over. "Talk." "Sutures are clean, no infection. She's got a headache she won't admit to." A breath. "Mr. Blackwood, I gave her the message. And you want it exactly. She didn't cry," the nurse said. "That's the first thing. I've told a lot of women a lot of things and they all cry. She just went very still and she looked at the wall for about 20 seconds. And then she said, 'He knows.' Just like that. Flat, like she was checking a box." Vincent's chest hurt. "Then what?" "Then she said, 'Did he say what he wants?' "What?" "That's what she asked me. Not is he coming, not does he love me. She said, 'Did he say what he wants?'" The nurse paused. "Mr. Blackwood, that's a woman who's been asked for things her whole life." Vincent sat down on the floor of his own kitchen. "I told her the rest," the nurse said. "I told her you said you're not asking her to forgive you, that you're just coming and she doesn't owe you anything for it. And—" She laughed. Vincent's eyes closed. "Not a mean laugh," the nurse said quickly. "It wasn't mean. It was the laugh of somebody hearing something they've waited a very long time for, and hearing it about 4 years late. You understand?" "Yes." "And then she said, Tell him it's the first thing he's ever said to me that didn't have a hook in it." Vincent Blackwood on the floor made a sound, and then she said something else, the nurse said. "And I need to tell you this part carefully because she made me repeat it back twice, and she made me promise, and I've never seen a woman with a head wound concentrate that hard on anything in my life. Say it. She said, tell him not to come." Vincent opened his eyes. She said, "Tell him Adrian doesn't want money, and he doesn't want me. He wants him. Tell him if he walks in that door, I lose them both." The nurse's voice shook, and then she put her hand on her stomach, Mr. Blackwood, and she said, "Tell him I'm not the one he has to save this time." Vincent couldn't breathe. "There's one more thing." "How can there be one more thing?" "She said to tell you she's sorry." "What?" "That's what I said. I said, 'Ma'am, sorry for what?' And she looked at me." The nurse stopped and got herself back. "She looked at me and she said, 'For being one more thing he has to lose.'" Vincent Blackwood put both hands flat on his kitchen floor and stayed there. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm here." "That woman has been told for 10 years that she's a cost," the nurse said. "You understand me? Somebody taught her that. Somebody spent a decade teaching a grown woman that the worst thing about her being in danger is the inconvenience." "I know who taught her." "Yeah," the nurse said. "So do I." At 2:40 that afternoon, Adrian Voss called. "You've been busy." "Where is she?" "Where? 14 properties in 20 hours. 2 of them weren't even yours, Vincent. You just kicked the doors in. You put a man through a window in Cicero." Voss sounded almost fond. "It's like watching a bear in a swimming pool." "Adrian, I'm giving you an address." Vincent's hand went white on the phone. 9 o'clock tonight, Voss said. "Come alone. Come armed. I don't care. Bring whatever you like. Bring 40 men if it makes you feel better. It won't change anything. Say the address." Voss said the address. It was a warehouse. It was on the water. It was south. And Vincent Blackwood stood in his own house and felt the floor drop out from under him because a nurse he'd never met had described that phone call to him word for word 18 hours before it happened. "Vincent, I'm here. You went quiet. I'm writing it down." "No, you're not," Voss said pleasantly. "Men like you don't write things down." Vincent's blood stopped. "Adrian." 9 o'clock, Voss said. "Oh, and Vincent, I want to say something before you go and do something loud. You've earned it. I've had 6 years to think about what I'd say to you, and I want to get it right." "Then say it. Do you remember my wife's name?" The silence was enormous. "Take your time," Voss said. "Adrian." "Her name," Voss said. "You were in my house. You were standing in my kitchen. You looked right at her. She was 7 months along, Vincent, and she asked you please, and you looked at her the way a man looks at furniture." His voice never rose. That was the terrible thing. It never rose. "Say her name, and I'll put your wife in a car right now and drive her to your gate myself. I swear it on the only thing I've got left. Say her name." Vincent Blackwood stood in his kitchen for 11 seconds. "I don't know it," he said. "No," Adrian Voss said softly. "You don't." The line went dead. At 3:15, Marcus found him standing in the hallway. "Sir, we've got the address. We can have 30 men on the—" "She's not there." "What?" "She's not there, Marcus. It's a warehouse on the water, and it's south, and it's exactly what the nurse said it would be 18 hours ago before it happened." Vincent's voice was hollow. "The nurse is real." Marcus went pale. "Then we don't go. We go." "Sir, we go loud." Vincent turned. 30 men. Trucks. Everything. He wants a bear in a swimming pool. He gets a bear in a swimming pool." "And what are you doing?" Vincent looked at him. "I'm not going to be in the trucks," he said. At 6 o'clock that evening, Vincent Blackwood sat in a car 2 blocks from Sienna Vale's apartment and made a phone call he'd been putting off for 4 hours. She answered on the first ring. "You're not dead," she said. "Disappointed. Honestly, a little relieved. I've been throwing up since yesterday." "Sienna, I need something." "No. You don't know what it is. I know it's going to get me killed." "Yes," Vincent said. "It probably is." She laughed, a cracked, exhausted sound. "Well, at least you're not lying to me. That's new, for both of us." "When he brought you in," Vincent said, 7 months ago. "How did he contact you?" "Vincent, how?" "A man came to my sister's restaurant," Sienna said. Okay, my sister's restaurant. In February of last year before I ever heard your name. And he sat down and he ordered coffee and he told me exactly how much my sister owed and exactly who she owed it to and exactly what happens to a woman who can't pay in this city. Her voice had gone hard again, that East Side voice underneath. And then he said, or you could go to a party. Vincent closed his eyes. That's it, she said. That's my whole villain origin. My sister owed $140,000 to a man I'd never met, and I went to a party in a red dress. Who's the man? I don't know his name. Sienna. I don't know his name, Vincent. That's not how it works. You know that's not how it works. A pause. But I know his car. Vincent opened his eyes. Say that again? He picked me up 11 times, Sienna said. 11 times in 7 months, and I sat in that car, and I hated every second of it, and I counted the cracks in the dashboard because I couldn't look at him. What kind of car? Dark blue, she said. Vincent stopped breathing. Sienna. His voice was very careful. Dark blue what? I don't know cars. Yes, you do. 11 times. You counted the cracks in the dash. Sienna, you know that car better than you know your own apartment. She was quiet. There was a thing, she said slowly, a parking tag, on the mirror. It was cardboard, it was hanging on a string, and it had a number on it, and it drove me crazy because it was always crooked. What was the number? Vincent. It was 7 months. What was the number? 418, Sienna said. 418? It was crooked, and it said 418, and there was a little logo. It was a boat, or an anchor. It was blue. Vincent Blackwood sat in that car and did not move for 4 full seconds. Marcus, he said. Marcus was already turning around. There's exactly one place in this state that hands out cardboard parking tags with an anchor on them, Vincent said, and it's not a warehouse. At 7:50 that night, 30 of Vincent Blackwood's men rolled up on a warehouse on the water south, exactly on schedule, loud enough to wake the county. It was empty. Not abandoned. Empty. Swept. Somebody had been in it as recently as that morning and had cleaned it like a hotel room, and in the middle of the floor, in the exact center of the concrete, sitting all by itself, was a single folding chair. And on the chair was a woman's wedding ring. Marcus Reed picked it up and turned it over and read the inside of the band, and then he had to put his hand on his knee. He called Vincent. Sir? Say it. It's empty. I know. Sir, there's a chair in the middle of the floor and there's a ring on it. Marcus's voice was unsteady. It's hers. It's engraved. It's the one she dropped on your driveway. Vincent didn't say anything. He went back, Marcus said. Sir, do you understand what that means? He went back to your driveway and he picked her ring up out of the rain. I understand what it means. Vincent. It means he's been on my property, Vincent said. It means he's been walking around my house. It means the night she left while I was standing there watching her taillights, he was close enough to hear us. The line was silent. Marcus, get everybody out of there, right now. Don't touch anything else. Sir, what do you want me to do with the ring? Leave it. What? Leave it on the chair, Vincent said. It's not mine. I threw it away. At 8:40 that night, a 19-year-old kid named Tomas, who worked a boat storage yard in Waukegan, sat in the back of a car and looked at a photograph. Yeah, he said. Yeah, that's a 418 tag. You're sure? Mister, I hang like 60 of them a week. It's slip 418, North Yard. Winter storage. Marcus's voice was very level. Who rents it? I don't know, man. I'm the kid with the tags. Thomas. I swear to God. Nobody's threatening you, Vincent said from the front seat, and Tomas went quiet, because there is a particular way a man says, nobody's threatening you, that lets you know exactly how much you're being threatened. Son, look at me. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to ask you one question, and then Marcus is going to drive you home, and you're never going to see either of us again. Okay. Is there a building at slip 418? Tomas swallowed. It's not a slip, he said. Vincent turned all the way around. What? 418's not a slip, that's the thing. It's on the tag sheet as a slip, but there's no boat there. There's never been a boat there. Tomas's leg was jumping. It's a maintenance house. It's like it's the old lift house from when they used to pull boats out on the rails. It's got the rail going right under it into the water." "Rails," Vincent said. "Yeah, like a train track, but for boats." Vincent Blackwood sat perfectly still. "Marcus," he said. "The nurse said she heard a train underneath." Marcus's hands closed on the steering wheel. "Tomas?" Vincent's voice had changed completely. "Is the north yard past a bridge?" "Yeah, the lift bridge. You gotta cross the lift bridge to get in. It's a whole thing. It goes up like 4 times up." "How far from the bridge to the lift house?" "I don't know, 40 minutes if it's up." Nobody in that car said a word. "Kid," Marcus said finally, "how old are you?" 19. "Have you ever seen anybody at the lift house?" Tomas hesitated. "Tomas." "There's a lady," he said. Vincent's entire body went rigid. "Say that again." "There's a lady comes sometimes, older lady like 50-something. She parks by the fence and she walks in, and she's got like a bag, like a doctor bag, the old kind." Tomas shrugged, miserable. "I figured she was somebody's mom." Vincent Blackwood put his face in his hands, and for 2 seconds nobody could tell if he was breaking or praying. Then he lifted his head. "Marcus," he said, "take him home. Give him whatever's in the glove box. Tomas, listen to me. You go home, you tell your mother you're sick, and you don't come to work tomorrow. You understand? Whatever you hear, you don't come to work tomorrow. Mister, say it back. I don't come to work tomorrow. Good boy." At 10:15 that night, Vincent Blackwood stood in a room with 13 men and no map. "Nobody writes this down," he said. "Nobody says it on a phone. Nobody says it in a car. It leaves this room in your head or it doesn't leave." Nobody moved. "Marcus." "Sir." "How many men can we put on the north side of a lift bridge without anybody in the world noticing?" Marcus was quiet a long moment. 11, he said. "Maybe, if they go in one at a time over 4 hours and none of them are in a vehicle. Then it's 11. Sir, there's 30 guns on the other side of that fence." "Probably." "Vincent," Marcus stepped forward. "I want to say this in front of everybody, because I'm not going to get another chance, and if I don't say it now, I'm going to have to live with it. You go through that fence, there's a real good chance you don't come back out. And there's a real good chance she doesn't either." Vincent nodded. "She told me not to come," he said. The room went absolutely still. "That's what the message was," Vincent said. "You've all been wondering. She said, tell him not to come. She said Adrian doesn't want money and he doesn't want me, he wants him. She said if he walks in that door, I lose them both." Nobody breathed. "So she's smarter than every man in this room," Vincent said. "And she's right, and she's been right about everything for 10 years, and I never listened to her once." He put his hands on the table. "And I'm going anyway." "Sir." "Not because I know better." Vincent looked up, and his eyes were dry, and that was somehow worse than crying. "I don't know better. I've never known better. I'm going because for 10 years, every single time it cost me something, I let her sit in the car. And she's in a room right now with 4 stitches in her head and 8 weeks of my child inside her. And the last thing she said to me through a stranger was that she's sorry for being one more thing I have to lose." His voice didn't break. It just got very, very quiet. "So she's wrong about one thing," Vincent said. "That's all. In 10 years, she's wrong about exactly one thing, and it's that. And I'm going to go tell her in person if it's the last thing I do on this earth." Marcus Reed looked at him for a long moment. Then he picked up his coat. 11 men, he said, in one at a time, 4 hours. At 11:58 40 feet from a fence in Waukegan, Vincent Blackwood's burner phone lit up. It was the nurse. He answered it, and she was whispering so fast he could barely make out the words. "He knows," she said. "Mr. Blackwood, he knows about me. He's known since this morning. He let me make that call. He let me, and he's moving her right now. They've got her in the van. She's in the van, and Mr. Blackwood, listen to me." The line filled with a sound. "Ma'am?" Nothing. "Ma'am?" And then a man's voice came on the phone, warm, unhurried, delighted. "Vincent," said Adrian Voss, "you're 40 feet from the fence." Vincent Blackwood didn't move. 41, maybe, Voss said. "I'm being generous. There's a man about 9 feet to your left, and he's breathing like he's been running, and you should talk to him about that, because it's the kind of thing that gets people killed. Where's the nurse? Sitting right here. Put her on. No. Adrian. Vincent, I want you to think about what you just did, Voss said. Your wife is in a van. Your child is in a van. And the first thing out of your mouth was about a woman you have never met and whose name you don't even know. He paused. Do you see it? Do you see how you do that? You always reach for the person you can save, never the person you should have. Vincent closed his eyes. Her name is Ruth, Voss said. Ruth Delaney, 31 years at Mercy. She retired in March because her hands started shaking and she was terrified she'd hurt somebody, and she's been working for me for 2 years to pay for her husband's chair because Medicare covers a chair that doesn't fit through her bathroom door. His voice went cold. So there's another one. Add her to the list. That's a person, Vincent. That's a whole entire person, and you've had her voice in your ear for 2 days, and you never once asked. I'm asking now. Yes, Voss said. That's the whole tragedy of you. You always ask now. The line stayed open. Adrian. Vincent's voice was low. Whatever you're going to do to her, she called me because of a bag of pretzels. That's it. That's the entire crime. She fed a hurt woman. I know what she did. So do it to me. Adrian Voss laughed, and it was quiet and genuine, and it went through Vincent like a nail. Oh, Vincent, he said, I'm going to. At 12:06 a.m., the line went dead, and Marcus Reed grabbed Vincent's arm. We're blown. I know. Sir, he's had eyes on us since we got out of the car, maybe since Waukegan, maybe since the kid we have to pull back, we have to... Marcus. Vincent, there are 11 of us, and he knows. Marcus. Vincent turned. Where's the van going? What? He's got her in a van. He told me that. Why would he tell me that? Marcus stopped. He wouldn't, Marcus said slowly. He wouldn't. Not unless he wanted me to chase it. Vincent's mind was moving faster than it had moved in 6 years. He's had 2 days to move her 100 times, and he waits until I'm 40 feet from a fence, and then he tells me she's in a van. Then she's not in the van. She's in the lift house, Vincent said. She's been in the lift house the whole time, and he wants me on a road. Sir, or she's in the van, and he's telling you the truth because he knows you won't believe him. Vincent looked at him. Yeah, he said. That's the other thing. The 2 men stood in the dark. Coin flip? Marcus said. No. Vincent's voice was strange. No. There's a way to know. How? He wants to say something to me, Vincent said. That's the whole thing, Marcus. That's what he's been doing for 2 days. He's not building a trap, he's building an audience. 6 years he's been waiting to say something to my face, and he does not get to say it to a van. At 12:14 a.m., Vincent Blackwood walked up to the gate of the north yard by himself, with his hands out and his phone lit up over his head, and 11 men behind him made a sound like the air going out of a room. Sir, Marcus's voice low and violent. Sir, get down. Vincent kept walking. 3 men came out of the dark. Vincent knew what they were before they got there. Evening, Vincent said. Nobody answered. I'm going to save you a phone call, he said. Tell Adrian that Vincent Blackwood walked up to the gate alone, unarmed, and asked to come in. One of them, young, maybe 25, and his hands weren't steady, said, Get on the ground. No. Get on the... Son. Vincent looked at him. If you put me on the ground, he will kill you. Not for hurting me, for touching the ending. He tilted his head. You've been standing out here for 2 days. You've heard him talk about it. You know I'm right. The kid's throat moved. Make the call, Vincent said. Somebody made the call. At 12:31 a.m., they took his phone and they put a hood over his head, and Vincent Blackwood, who had not been afraid of anything since he was 11 years old, discovered that he had simply never been in a position to be. He counted. He counted because Ruth Delaney had counted, and he thought about that, about a woman with shaking hands sitting hooded in a van counting minutes for a stranger, and he had to breathe through his teeth. 40 steps, a door, a ramp down. Cold. Water underneath. He could hear water underneath. They put him in a chair. They didn't tie him. That was when he knew for certain. Somebody pulled the hood off. And Adrian Voss was sitting 3 feet in front of him in an identical chair with his elbows on his knees, looking at Vincent the way a man looks at a photograph he's carried in his wallet for 6 years. "Hello, Vincent." Vincent said nothing. "You're not going to ask where she is?" "No." Voss's eyebrows went up, and something like real pleasure moved across his face. "Why not?" "Because you'd lie," Vincent said, "and then I'd have to hear it." Adrian Voss laughed out loud. "God," he said. "God, you're close. You're so much closer than you were. 2 days, Vincent. 2 days and you're almost a person." He leaned back. "It took my wife 11 years to get me that far, and it took a locked gate to get you there in one night. That's the difference between us. You had to be broken. I got to be loved." Adrian. Her name was Rosalind. The room went silent. "Rosalind Voss." He said it slowly. She played the piano badly. She was loud. She laughed at her own jokes before she finished them, which is the worst thing a person can do, and I never once told her to stop because I was afraid she would. His face didn't move. She was 7 months and 1 week pregnant. It was a girl. We had a name, and I'm not going to say it in front of you. Vincent's jaw was locked so tight it hurt. "Do you remember what you said?" Voss asked. "In my kitchen to her." "No." "You said, 'Ma'am, this doesn't concern you.'" Vincent Blackwood closed his eyes. "That's it," Voss said. "That's the whole thing. That's the sentence I've had in my head for 6 years. Not the fire, not the rest of it. 4 words. This doesn't concern you." He leaned forward again. "She was standing in her own kitchen with our daughter inside her, and you looked at her and you decided she wasn't part of it. Because she was quiet. Because she wasn't the man. Adrian." "And then 2 nights ago," Voss said, "a woman drove 90 minutes through a storm to tell you she was carrying your child, and you told a man at a gate that she doesn't come in." He spread his hands. "Do you understand now? I didn't have to do anything to you, Vincent. I didn't have to teach you a lesson. I just had to wait for you to do it to yourself and then make sure you were awake for it." The water moved under the floor. "So that's it," Vincent said quietly. "That's the whole plan. 7 months. Sienna, the car, the blood on the headrest, all of it to get me in a chair so you could say 4 words back to me." "No," Adrian Voss said. Vincent looked up. "That's what I wanted at first," Voss said. "For about 4 years, that was the whole architecture. Take his wife, hold her, let him lose everything trying to get her back, and then at the very end in a room tell him her name was Rosalind." He was quiet a moment. "It's a good plan. It's got symmetry. I've run it in my head 10,000 times." "Then what changed?" Adrian Voss looked at him for a long, long moment. "I met her," he said. Vincent stopped breathing. "You son of a—" "Sit down." Voss didn't raise his voice. Vincent sat down. "Sit down. Vincent, nobody's touched her. That's not what I mean, and you know it's not what I mean, so sit in the chair and let a man finish a sentence for once in your life." Vincent sat. 40 hours, Voss said. "That's how long I've had her. And in 40 hours, that woman has apologized to the man guarding her door because she thought she'd woken him up. She has asked Ruth about Ruth's husband by name, Vincent. She learned his name, and she has thanked every single person who's put a bottle of water in her hand." His voice had gone strange. "And last night she asked me if I was cold." Vincent stared at him. "I'm the man who took her off a road at midnight," Voss said. "And she looked at me sitting there at 2 in the morning, and she said, 'You should get a coat. It's freezing in here.'" Nobody in that room said anything. "So I sat down," Adrian Voss said, "and I asked her a question I have wanted to ask a woman like her for 6 years. I said, 'Why did you stay 10 years? Why did you stay don't?' And she said, 'Adrian, don't.' She said, 'Because he was going to be good.' I could see it. It was right there." Vincent Blackwood made a sound like something tearing. She said, "I wasn't waiting for him to love me. I was waiting for him to arrive." Voss's face had gone perfectly still. "And I sat there, Vincent, in a room I built for revenge, and I realized that Rosalind used to say almost the exact same thing about me." The water moved. "And that's when I understood that I was about to do it," Voss said. "The thing you did, the exact thing, not something like it. It. I was going to stand in front of a good woman with a child inside her and decide she wasn't part of it." He looked down at his hands. I've been 6 years telling myself I'm the man who got hurt. And then I looked at a woman on a mattress in my own building with 4 stitches in her head, asking me if I was cold, and I thought, no, I'm the man in the kitchen. I'm you. I'm exactly you, and I got here on purpose, and it took me 6 years, and it took you 1 night, and you're the amateur. Vincent couldn't move. So no, Adrian Voss said. There's no ending. I don't have one. I've been sitting in this chair for 40 hours trying to build one, and I can't because every version of it has her in it, and she asked me if I was cold. At 12:52 a.m., Vincent Blackwood said, Then let her go. I'm going to. Now. Vincent. Right now. Tonight. Adrian, whatever you want from me, take it. Take all of it. I'll sign it over. I'll walk into a federal building tomorrow morning, and I'll say whatever you want me to say, and I will never see the outside of a prison again. I don't care. His voice broke wide open. Let her go. That's the problem, Voss said. What? That. Voss pointed at him almost gently. That right there. You're doing it again. Doing what? Trading. Adrian Voss stood up. Vincent, listen to me because I'm going to give you something, and you're not going to understand it for about a year. She doesn't want to be traded. She spent 10 years being the thing that gets weighed against other things, and you're sitting in a chair in a lift house at 1 a.m, offering to put her on the scale again. Vincent's mouth was open. I'm not letting her go because you gave me something, Voss said. I'm letting her go because she's a person, and I forgot that for 6 years, and she reminded me by asking about my coat. He walked to a door. Adrian, Voss stopped. Why are you telling me all this? Vincent said. Adrian Voss didn't turn around. Because somebody has to survive this, he said, and it isn't going to be me. At 1:04 a.m., the door opened, and Isabella Carter walked through it on her own 2 feet. Nobody was holding her arm. Nobody was pushing her. She came through that door under her own power in the same coat she'd been wearing in the rain 2 nights before, with a line of black stitches over her left eye and a bruise going yellow at the edges. And she stopped 4 feet inside the room and looked at her husband sitting in a folding chair. Vincent stood up. He got about halfway to his feet, and then his legs quit, and he sat back down, and it happened in front of 9 men, and he didn't care. Bella, he said. She looked at him for a long moment. You came, she said. 2 words. And Vincent Blackwood, who had built an empire out of never letting anything land, felt those 2 words go into him past every wall he had ever put up in his life. Not you came like relief. You came like a question. Like a woman who was actually surprised. Like a woman running the odds in her head and finding that they didn't support it. Bella, I told her not to come. Isabella said to nobody to the room. I told Ruth. I said tell him not to come. Did she tell you? She told me. And you came anyway. Yes. Isabella nodded slowly, and then she said something that took the floor out from under him. Of course you did, she said. It's a rescue. You were always going to be good at the rescue. Vincent's face came apart. Bella, that's not... She stopped, pressed her fingers to her mouth, breathed. That's not fair. I'm sorry. I've been awake for 2 days and I've got a hole in my head and I'm not being fair. Be unfair, Vincent said. Please, please be unfair to me. I'm asking you. See, that's the thing. Isabella's voice was so tired. You can take it. That's the horrible part, Vincent. You can take anything. I could stand here and say the worst thing anybody's ever said to you, and you'd take it and you'd sleep fine because it costs you nothing to be hurt. She looked at him. It only ever cost you something to stay. The room was so quiet. I want to say something, Vincent said. I know. Bella. I know what it is. She was crying now, and she was furious about it, and she wiped her face with the back of her wrist the way she'd done in a doctor's office 3 days ago. You want to say you're sorry, and you want to say you didn't know, and you want to say that if you'd known about the baby, you'd have opened the gate. Vincent didn't answer. Say it, Isabella said. Go ahead. Say it out loud so we can both hear how it sounds. If I'd known about the baby, Vincent said, I'd have opened the gate. And Isabella Carter closed her eyes. Yeah, she said. That's what I thought. Bella. That's the answer, Vincent. That's it. That's the whole thing right there. Her voice rose, and it was the first time in 10 years that anyone in that world had ever heard her raise it, and 9 armed men stood absolutely still. You'd have opened the gate for the baby, not for me. Me standing in the rain wasn't enough. Me driving 90 minutes through a storm wasn't enough. Your wife of 10 years wasn't enough. But a photograph would have done it. That's not... Then what is it? She stepped forward. Tell me. Because I have been asking that question in my head for 40 hours in a room with a mattress in it, and I cannot get to the bottom of it. What was the number, Vincent? What did I have to be worth? Because 10 years wasn't it, and a storm wasn't it, and loving you when nobody else on this earth would wasn't it. So what was the number? Vincent Blackwood sat in a folding chair and had no answer. See? Isabella whispered. There isn't one. That's what I figured out. There's no number. I was never on the list. You were the only thing on the list. Don't. She said it with real violence. Don't you dare. Not now. Not in front of these men. You had 10 years to say that in a kitchen. I know. You had 10 years, Vincent, and you had a phone in your hand, and I was 40 feet away in the rain, and I asked you... Her voice tore. I asked you a question. I said if I called from the road and said drop everything, would you have? And you thought about it. Vincent, you thought about it. In front of me. I know. You want to know what the worst part of the last 2 days was, Isabella said. It wasn't the car. It wasn't the men. It wasn't the stitches. It was lying on a mattress at 4 a.m, realizing that when they ran me off that road, the very first thing I felt wasn't fear. She stopped. It was relief. Vincent's whole body went rigid. Because at least it was over, she said. At least I didn't have to go back and be at the gate again. Nobody in that room breathed. And Adrian Voss, standing by the door, turned his face away. At 1:19 a.m., Vincent Blackwood got out of the chair. He didn't get up. He got down. He went to his knees on a concrete floor in front of his wife, and Marcus Reed would hear about it from 4 different men over the next 10 years and would never quite believe it. And Vincent didn't reach for her. That was the thing. He didn't reach for her. Vincent, get up. No. Get up. These men are watching. Let them. Vincent. Bella, I'm going to say 4 things, he said, and then I'm going to stop talking, and I'm never going to make you listen to me again as long as I live. Isabella stood very still. 1, Vincent said. I knew. The whole time. That's the first thing, and it's the worst one, and I'm saying it first, so you don't have to wonder. I knew what I was doing to you. Every single day for 211 days, I got up in the morning and I knew. And I did it anyway, and there is no story I can tell you where I'm confused or lost or in over my head. I knew. I just didn't think you'd ever actually go. Isabella's hand came up over her mouth. 2, it was never her. You said that at the gate, and you were right, and I didn't understand it then, and I do now. It wasn't Sienna. It could have been anybody. What I wanted was a room where nobody had ever seen me be good, because you'd seen it, and every time you looked at me, you were looking at a man I stopped being years ago, and I couldn't stand it. His voice was shaking. It's easier to be with someone who never knew. That's all it was. That's the whole affair. There's nothing else in it. Vincent. 3. He looked up at her. You asked me what the number was. There wasn't one. But not because you were worth nothing, Bella. Because I never did the math. Not once. In 10 years, I never once sat down and thought about what you were worth, because you were just there like the floor, and nobody weighs the floor. His face twisted. That's not better. I know that's not better. That's worse, and I'm saying it anyway because you asked, and you deserve one true answer before you go. Isabella was crying without a sound. 4, Vincent said. He stopped. He was quiet for so long that Adrian Voss turned around. I don't want you back, Vincent said. Isabella's head came up. I want to be a man you'd consider, he said. That's all. That's the whole thing. Bella, I'm 43 years old, and I have never in my life wanted to be worth something to somebody. I've only ever wanted to have things, and I had you, and I threw you in the rain. His voice was almost gone. So I'm not asking. I'll never ask. But I'd like to spend the rest of my life becoming a man who could have opened that gate. Even if you're not there when I get there, especially if you're not. The lift house was silent, and then Isabella Carter said very quietly, I don't need you to save me anymore. Vincent nodded. I know. No. She stepped closer, and she looked down at him, and her voice was steady as stone. No, you don't. Listen to me. Listen to me, Vincent. I don't need you to save me anymore. I needed you to choose me before I disappeared. Vincent Blackwood put his forehead on the concrete floor. That's it, Isabella said. That's the only sentence I've got. I've had 40 hours, and that's all that's left. You can't come get me now. There's no coming to get me. The getting was supposed to happen at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday when nothing was wrong and nobody was watching, and it would have cost you a meeting. I know. You can't buy that back. It's not for sale. It never was. I know. There's no gun for it, Vincent. There's no war. You can't put 30 men on it. Her voice finally broke. It was a gate. It was a gate and a button, and I was 40 feet away. And Vincent Blackwood, on his knees on a concrete floor, said the only true thing he had left. Bella, I'm not trying to buy it back, he said. I know it's gone. I'm not stupid, I'm just late. He lifted his head. I'm on the floor because it's where I've been for 2 days and I only just noticed. At 1:34 a.m., Adrian Voss said, Isabella. She turned. The car's outside, he said. Ruth's driving. She's got the keys and she's got a full tank, and I've told the men at the gate to open it, and if any of them so much as looks at that car, I'll deal with it personally. Isabella looked at him for a long moment. Adrian, don't. Adrian, where are you going to go? And Adrian Voss. 6 years of it. The fire, the dental records, the 211 days. Adrian Voss looked at the woman he'd taken off a road at midnight and could not answer her. Ma'am, he said finally, you're the only person in 8 years who's asked me that. That's not an answer. No, he agreed. It isn't. Come with us. The room turned. Every single man in it turned. Bella, Vincent said, and there was nothing in his voice but shock. Be quiet. She didn't look at him. Adrian, look at me. You have 4 men out there who'd cut your throat for $600, and you know it, and you just let me walk out that door in front of all of them, and every one of them saw you do it. Voss said nothing. You just killed yourself, Isabella said. You know that. You did it on purpose, standing right there. You made your ending 40 minutes ago, and you made it out of me. Ma'am. Her name was Rosalind, Isabella said. Adrian Voss's face came apart. You said it to him, she said. You never said it to me. 40 hours in that room, and you never once said her name to me because you knew if you said it to somebody who'd be kind about it, you wouldn't be able to finish this. Voss put a hand out and found a wall. Come with us, Isabella said again. I can't. Adrian. Ma'am, I burned a house down with a woman inside it, Adrian Voss said, and it wasn't Rosalind's and it wasn't his, and there is a whole other family in this city who has been sitting exactly where I've been sitting for 4 years, and they're not done either. He looked at her and he was shaking. It doesn't stop. That's what I need you to understand before you get in that car. It doesn't stop. It just picks the next person. And the only way out of it is somebody has to stand in the road and refuse to hand it on. Then hand it to nobody. That's what I'm doing, Adrian Voss said. At 1:41 a.m., Isabella Carter stopped in the doorway. She turned around. Vincent was still on the floor. Vincent? He looked up. Get off the ground, she said. He got up. I'm not coming home, she said. I know. I don't know if I ever am. I want you to hear that with your ears, not the way you hear things. There's a real chance the answer is never, and you have to be able to live in that. I can live in that. You say that now. Bella. His voice was quiet. I've lived in a house with 40 rooms and a gate and every single thing I ever wanted for 2 days without you, and I'd rather be dead. So don't tell me what I can live in. I've been trying it. I know what it's worth now. Isabella looked at him, and then she did the thing that Vincent Blackwood would think about every day for the rest of his life. She took his hand, just took it, the way she'd taken it 10,000 times in 10 years, easy like it was nothing, and she put it flat against her stomach, and she held it there. 8 weeks and 4 days, she said. Vincent Blackwood made a sound that didn't have a word in it. There's nothing to feel yet, Isabella said. There won't be for a while. That's not what this is. Then what is it? It's the door, she said. It's the same door I drove 90 minutes through a storm to stand in front of, and I'm giving it to you one more time because I'm apparently the stupidest woman in the state of Illinois. Bella. But this time you have to say something, she said. That's the difference. 10 years I stood at that door and waited for you to notice it was open. Not anymore. You want in, you say it out loud in a room in front of people right now, and you don't get to think about it first. Vincent's hand was shaking against her. I choose you, he said, louder. I choose you. His voice cracked wide open, and he didn't care. Bella, I choose you. I'm sorry it took a fence and a hood and a man in a chair. I'm sorry it took the worst 2 days of your life. I choose you. If you never let me near you again, I chose you, and it's the first thing I've ever done in my life that didn't have a hook in it. Isabella Carter took her hand back. Okay, she said. Bella, that's not forgiveness. I know. That's a receipt, she said. That's all that was. 9 men heard it. Now it exists. Her jaw was trembling, because for 10 years everything you ever gave me happened where nobody could see it, and I could never prove any of it was real, not even to myself. So now there's 9 witnesses and a nurse in a car, and whatever happens to us that happened. She walked out, and Vincent Blackwood stood in a lift house over Blackwater and watched his wife leave under her own power for the second time in 3 days and did not follow her. At 1:49 a.m., Adrian Voss said, You're not going after her. No. Why not? Vincent Blackwood looked at the door for a long time. Because that's the part I always do, he said. The going after. I'm good at that. I've been good at it my whole life. His voice was hollow. The part I've never done is stay where I am and let somebody choose. Adrian Voss nodded slowly. Then he said, Vincent. Yeah. There's a car coming across the bridge. Vincent turned. It's not mine, Voss said. At 1:50 a.m., Vincent Blackwood said one word. Marcus. He said it into nothing, because they'd taken his phone at the gate, and then he turned around and grabbed the nearest man by the front of the jacket and said it again. Give me a phone. Sir, I don't... Give me a phone. Adrian Voss said, Give him a phone, Petey. The phone came out. Vincent dialed a number he had never once had to think about, and it rang twice, and Marcus Reed's voice came on like a gunshot. Sir, Marcus, where's the car? What car? Ruth's car. Isabella's in a car with Ruth Delaney. It left the yard 9 minutes ago. Sir, nothing's come out of that gate. Vincent's blood stopped. Say that again. Nothing has come out of that gate since you went in it, Marcus said. I've had eyes on it for 90 minutes. Nothing's come out. Vincent turned around slowly and looked at Adrian Voss. Adrian, he said, where is my wife? She left. She didn't come out the gate. Voss's face changed. It was the first time in 2 days that Vincent had seen anything crack in that man, and what came through it wasn't guilt. It was calculation fast and awful. There's a service road, Voss said, off the north fence. It's how the trucks come in. It puts you on the bridge in about 4 minutes. And the car coming across the bridge right now is coming the other way, Adrian Voss said. Adrian. Vincent's voice went very quiet. Is there another way off that bridge? Voss didn't answer. Is there another way off that bridge? No, Adrian Voss said. There's water on both sides and a rail in the middle. It's a bridge, Vincent. That's what a bridge is. At 1:52 a.m. Ruth Delaney's hands were shaking on the steering wheel, and she was furious about it, and she said so. 31 years, she said. 31 years I've had a man's chest open in front of me, and my hands were like stone, and now look at them. Ruth, look at them. Ruth, pull over. Absolutely not. Ruth, Isabella put a hand on her arm. Pull over, just for a second. You're doing 40 on a bridge in the dark, and you can't feel your fingers, and I've already been in one accident this week. Ruth Delaney laughed. It came out of her ragged and wet. That's not funny. It's a little funny. It is not funny, Isabella. Ruth, stop the car. The car stopped. Ruth Delaney put both hands over her face and sat there in the middle of a lift bridge at 2 a.m. and made a small, ugly sound. I helped them, she said. Ruth, I helped them take you. I didn't drive the car, and I didn't touch you, but I knew, and I put my hands on a woman I knew they'd hurt, and I told myself it was the same as nursing. Oh, Ruth, it's not the same as nursing. Ruth, look at me. Isabella waited. Look at me. You're the only reason my husband knows he's going to be a father. Do you understand that you're the whole reason? Every single thing that happened in that room tonight happened because a woman with shaking hands picked up a phone. Ruth wiped her face. That doesn't undo it. No, Isabella agreed. It doesn't. Ruth's head came up. You're not going to tell me it does. No, Isabella said. I'm not going to lie to you at 2 a.m, Ruth. I like you too much. You did it. It happened. You're going to carry it. She put her hand over the older woman's hand. But you're going to carry it while you're driving me off this bridge. That's the deal. You don't get to put it down, and you don't get to stop the car. Ruth Delaney let out a shuddering breath. Okay. Isabella? Yeah. There's headlights. At 1:54 a.m., Vincent Blackwood ran. He ran through a door and up a ramp and across a yard, and 9 armed men watched him go, and not one of them raised a hand because Adrian Voss was running right behind him. Vincent, how many? I don't know. Adrian, how many? If it's who I think it is, it's 4 cars, Voss said. 16 men. They don't come light. Who is it? The Renners. Vincent got to the fence and stopped like he'd hit a wall. The Renners are dead. So am I, Adrian Voss said. Everybody in this city is dead, Vincent. That's the joke. That's the whole joke. Nobody's dead. We just stopped looking. At 1:55 a.m., Marcus Reed's voice came out of the phone in Vincent's hand. Sir, I've got 4 vehicles on the bridge approach north side moving slow. And sir, his voice changed. There's a car stopped in the middle of the span. It's been sitting there for about 90 seconds. Vincent Blackwood's whole world reduced itself to the size of a coin. That's her. Sir, Marcus, that's her. That's the car. Vincent, I've got 11 men, and none of them are on that side of the water. Do you understand me? To get to that bridge, I have to go around, and around is 19 minutes, and I'd have to go through the front of 4 cars to do it. Then go through them. Sir, go through them. Vincent, Marcus's voice cut like a wire. 11 men. 16 guns, on a bridge with your pregnant wife stopped in the middle of it. You want me to start a war 40 feet from her car. Vincent Blackwood opened his mouth and nothing came out. Because it was the gate again. It was the gate again, and it was the exact same math, and this time he'd get it right, and it still wouldn't save her. And he understood in that second with total clarity that the worst thing he had ever done to Isabella Carter was teach her that everything in her life was a number on a scale. Marcus, he said, I don't know what to do. There was a silence on that line. Marcus Reed had worked for that man for 11 years and had never once heard those 5 words in that order. Sir, Marcus said quietly, then don't do anything. Not for 10 seconds. Just stand there. At 1:56 a.m., Adrian Voss took the phone out of Vincent Blackwood's hand and hung it up. Adrian, look at me. Give me the phone. Vincent, look at me. Voss's face was calm. He was completely, terribly calm. They're not here for her. They don't care. They're not here for her. They're here for me. And in about 4 minutes, they're going to reach that car, and a man is going to get out and look in the window, and he's going to see a woman he's never met. Voss's voice never moved. And then he's going to make a decision, and it's going to depend entirely on whether he thinks that woman is worth more to him alive in a car or alive in a trunk. Adrian, that's your wife's whole life, Vincent, Adrian Voss said. Right there, some man in the dark deciding what she's worth. It's what you did to her for 10 years, and now it's on a bridge with headlights. Vincent couldn't breathe. So here's what happens, Voss said. I'm going to walk out on that bridge. They'll kill you. Yes. Adrian. Vincent, listen to me very carefully because I've only got 4 minutes, and you've been a slow learner for 6 years. Adrian Voss put both hands on Vincent's shoulders. The reason they'll stop is because the second they see me, I'm the biggest thing on that bridge. Nobody looks at a car when the man they've wanted for 6 years is standing in the road with his hands up. That's it. That's the whole trick. It's not brave. It's arithmetic. There's another way. There isn't. Adrian, she asked you to come with us. And Adrian Voss's face broke open just for a second, just once. I know she did, he said. God help me, I know she did. 40 hours and she asked me twice. Once about a coat and once about my life. He got himself back. And that's why. Vincent, do you understand? That's why. Because if I get in a car with that woman, then in about a year, I'm the man who ruined the only good thing left in this, and I'd rather be dead than be you twice. Vincent Blackwood stood in the dark with a fence in his hands. Tell her something for me, Adrian Voss said. Tell her yourself. Vincent, you tell her yourself, Adrian. You get in a car and you drive and you tell her I wasn't cold. The yard went silent. Tell her that, Adrian Voss said, and his voice was shaking now, all of it, 6 years of it. Tell her I sat in that room for 40 hours and I wasn't cold, that's all. She'll know what it means. She's the only person alive who'll know what it means. Then he let go of Vincent's shoulders. Adrian and Vincent. He was already walking. Your daughter's name is not going to be Rosalind. Vincent turned. What? I saw your face when I said it, Voss said. Don't you dare do that. Don't you put my dead wife on your live child like a receipt. That's the oldest thing you do, Vincent. That's the thing you're going to have to kill. He looked back once. You want to honor her, be the man who opens the gate. That's it. That's the whole price. Nobody wants a name on a baby, they want a man in a kitchen who turns around. And he walked out onto the bridge. At 1:59 a.m., Isabella Carter saw a man walking toward her in the headlights and knew exactly who it was. Ruth, get down. What? Get down. Put your head below the window. Isabella. Ruth. Adrian Voss walked past the driver's side of that car without turning his head. He didn't look at it. He didn't slow down. He walked past his own hostage of 40 hours with his hands going up over his head and his eyes on 4 sets of headlights, and Isabella Carter watched him go by in the glass and understood everything in 1 second. No, she said. She had the door handle in her hand. Isabella. No. Isabella, don't. Ruth, he's going to. And Ruth Delaney, 61 years old, 31 years at Mercy, reached across that seat and grabbed a pregnant woman by both wrists and held her in the car with everything she had. You listen to me, Ruth said. Let go. You listen to me, Isabella Carter. Ruth's face was wet and her voice was iron. That man is doing the only good thing he has left in the whole world, and you are not going to take it away from him. He can come with us. He can't. He can. Honey, he can't, and you know it, and he knows it, and he asked you if you'd get in the car 40 minutes ago because he already knew what he was going to do. Ruth's hands were like stone now. They'd stopped shaking. They'd stopped completely. Some people don't get a next part. That's not fair, and it's not right, and I've watched it 300 times, and it doesn't get easier. But you have 8 weeks and 4 days inside you, and you are not getting out of this car. Isabella Carter stopped fighting. She turned her face toward the window, and she watched Adrian Voss walk into 4 sets of headlights with his hands over his head. At 2:01 a.m., a man's voice came across the bridge, and it was almost cheerful. Adrian Voss. Yeah, 6 years. 6 years. You know how much I've spent looking for you. Probably about what I spent, Voss said. Somebody laughed. Somebody actually laughed. There's a car behind you. That's a nurse and a woman with a head injury, Adrian Voss said. The nurse works at Mercy and the woman's nobody. They took a wrong turn off the yard road. It happens twice a week. Ask anybody. That right? That's right. Because from here it looks like Vincent Blackwood's wife. The silence on that bridge lasted about 3 seconds, and it took a year off Isabella Carter's life. Now why, Adrian Voss said slowly, would I be standing in the middle of a bridge with my hands up if I had Vincent Blackwood's wife in a car behind me? Nobody answered. Think about it, Voss said. Really think, because you've got exactly 1 shot at this, and I'd hate for you to spend it on a nurse. Another silence. Let the car go, somebody said. "Wait! Let the car go!" "Danny, look at him. Look at him. He came out on his own." A pause. "He's done." At 2:03 a.m., Ruth Delaney drove past 4 cars at 15 miles an hour with her chin up and both hands on the wheel and did not look at a single man on that bridge. Isabella Carter turned around in her seat. She turned all the way around and she looked out the back glass, and Adrian Voss was standing in the middle of that span with his hands over his head, and he was watching the car go, and even from 100 feet in the dark she could see it. He was smiling. "Ruth, don't." "Ruth," he's smiling. "Isabella, don't look." "I have to look." "Why?" And Isabella Carter said something that Ruth Delaney would think about for the rest of her life. "Because somebody has to," she said. That's all he ever wanted. Ruth, that's the whole thing. Somebody in his kitchen for 1 second, somebody who saw him. Ruth Delaney drove, and behind them Adrian Voss stood in the road and refused to hand it on. At 2:04 a.m., Vincent Blackwood was on his knees at the fence when the shots came across the water. 3 of them. Just 3. He didn't move for a very long time. At 2:31 a.m., Marcus Reed found him there. "Sir, is she out?" "She's out. She's on 41. Ruth's driving her to Clara Whitmore's." Vincent nodded. "Sir, are you hurt?" "No." "Vincent." Marcus crouched down. "Vincent, look at me. Are you hurt?" "No, Marcus, I'm not hurt." Vincent's voice was a scrape. "That's the thing about me. Nobody's ever hurt me. That's what she said, remember? It costs me nothing to be hurt." "Sir." "He asked me for one thing." Vincent was staring at the water. 6 years he built this. 211 days. He had me in a chair, Marcus. He had me on my knees on a floor. And he could have done anything he wanted to me, and he didn't. And the one thing he asked me for was to tell her he wasn't cold. Marcus was quiet. "I don't even know what it means," Vincent said. "She will." That's what he said. Vincent Blackwood got up off the ground. "Marcus." "Sir." "His wife's name was Rosalind," Vincent said. "I want it written down somewhere. I want it in a book. I want it in a place where somebody has to read it 100 years from now. Rosalind Voss. She played the piano badly, and she laughed at her own jokes before she finished them, and she was 7 months and 1 week pregnant, and she asked me please, and I said, 'This doesn't concern you.'" Marcus Reed stood in the dark with his hands at his sides. "Sir," he said, "there's no book." "Then we're going to make one," Vincent said. At 9:15 that morning, Vincent Blackwood knocked on Danny Kovac's door. Danny's wife opened it. She looked at him for about 4 seconds, and then she started to close it. "Ma'am?" "No." "Ma'am, I'm not here to—" "I don't care what you're here for." Her voice was low, and it was shaking, and she had one hand on the door and one hand on the frame. "My husband has 4 stitches in his head, and he cries in the shower where he thinks I can't hear him, and he's been at your gate for 6 years, Mr. Blackwood. 6 years, and you put his head in a wall because a woman was in the rain." "Yes, ma'am." She stopped. What?" "I said yes, ma'am." Vincent stood on that step with his hands at his sides. "You're right. That's what I did. I'm not going to explain it, and I'm not going to give you a reason because there isn't one, and if I give you a reason, then you have to argue with it, and you shouldn't have to do that on your own step at 9 in the morning. Danny's wife stared at him. "Then what do you want?" "I want to say it to him." "He doesn't want to see you." "That's fine." "He doesn't want your money." "That's fine too," Vincent said. "Ma'am, I'm going to be honest with you because I've been lying to everybody for 20 years, and I'm bad at the other thing, but I'm going to try. I've got about $400 million, and there is nothing I can put on this step that's worth anything to you. I know that. I found that out at about 2 o'clock this morning." She didn't say anything. "So I'm going to come back tomorrow," Vincent said, "and the day after that, and I'm going to stand on this step and not come in for as long as it takes until Danny wants to open the door. And if that's never, then it's never, and I'll still come." "Why?" "Because he's the only man in the whole thing who did the right thing," Vincent said. "Ma'am, he asked me twice. He stood at a gate and he asked me twice. Nobody else in my life has ever asked me twice." The door didn't close. It didn't open either. "He's asleep," Danny's wife said finally. "Then I'll come tomorrow." "Mr. Blackwood," he turned. "Is she all right?" she asked. "Mrs. Blackwood, is she all right?" and Vincent Blackwood stood on that step and had to put his hand on the railing. "He asked about her," he said. "Danny, when they were putting the stitches in, didn't he?" "Yes." "Yeah," Vincent said. "Of course he did." At 4:40 that afternoon, Sienna Vale opened her door and found Marcus Reed on the other side of it, and she put her hand over her mouth and started to cry before he said a word. "Ma'am, just do it," she said. "Please, just do it fast. I've been sitting in there for 2 days waiting. Ma'am, your sister's debt is gone." Sienna Vale stopped crying. "What?" $140,000, Marcus said. "It's paid, it's not moved, it's not transferred, it's not held by somebody else. It's gone. There's no paper on it anywhere in this state, and nobody's coming to your sister's restaurant ever again." Sienna stared at him. "What does he want?" "Nothing." "Marcus, what does he want?" "Ma'am." Marcus Reed's face didn't move. "I've worked for that man for 11 years, and I've never once said this sentence, and I'm about to say it now, so listen. He doesn't want anything." "That's not—" "He said to tell you one thing," Marcus said. "He said, you went to a party in a red dress because your sister was going to get hurt. Vincent Blackwood locked his pregnant wife out of a house because he felt like it. Only one of those is a bad person, and it isn't you." Sienna Vale put her back against the doorframe and slid down it. "That's not fair," she said. "No, ma'am." "That's not Marcus. I did it. I did all of it. I slept in her bed." "Yes, ma'am." "I wore her robe." "Yes, ma'am, you did," Marcus said. "And you're going to carry that. He's not taking it from you. He can't and he wouldn't, and it's not his to take." He paused. "But he said your sister's not part of it. He said tell her sister doesn't concern this." Sienna Vale looked up. "He said it like that. He said it exactly like that," Marcus said. 3 times. He made me say it back. At 6:20 that evening, Clara Whitmore opened her door, and Vincent Blackwood did not come in. "She's asleep," Clara said. "Okay." "Vincent." "That's fine, Clara. I'm not asking. You're going to stand on my step." "Yeah." "For how long?" "Until she's awake," Vincent said. "And then if she doesn't want to see me, I'm going to go home and I'm going to come back tomorrow." Clara Whitmore looked at him for a long moment. "You're doing the thing," she said. "What thing? The grand gesture thing, the standing in the rain thing." Her voice was flat. "Vincent, she doesn't want a gesture. She had a gesture. It was a bracelet." And Vincent Blackwood nodded. "You're right," he said. Then he turned around and walked to his car. Clara stood in her doorway with her mouth open. "Where are you going?" "Home." "You just said—" "Clara, you just told me she doesn't want it," Vincent said. "And you've known her for 22 years, and I've been ignoring people who tell me true things for my entire adult life." He opened the car door. "So I'm going home. Tell her I came. Tell her I left when you told me to. That's all." Clara Whitmore stood there in the doorway. "Vincent." He stopped. "That's the first time," she said. "First time what?" "The first time in 22 years, Clara said, "that you've ever done what somebody asked you to." At 11:50 that night, Vincent Blackwood's phone rang. It was a number he didn't know. "Blackwood? It's me." Vincent Blackwood sat down on the floor. "Bella." "Don't do anything," she said. "Don't say anything big. I've got about 4 minutes and then I'm going back to sleep for 11 hours. "Okay." "Clara said you left." "She told me to." "Yeah," Isabella said. "That's why I'm calling." Neither of them said anything for a while. "Vincent?" "Yeah." "Is he dead?" Vincent closed his eyes. "Yes." He heard her breathe out. "Tell me," she said. "Bella, tell me. Don't manage me. Don't handle it. I've had 10 years of being handled, and I would rather hear the worst thing on earth than have one more man decide what I can take." "He walked out on the bridge with his hands up," Vincent said. "He told them you were a nurse and a nobody who took a wrong turn. He told them to think about it. He said you've got one shot, and I'd hate for you to spend it on a nurse." Vincent's voice went. "And then he stood there and let them look at him, Bella, because he knew nobody looks at a car when he's standing in the road." Silence. "He asked me to tell you something. Don't." "Bella." "Vincent, don't. I can't." "He said to tell you he wasn't cold." And Isabella Carter, 3 days pregnant past 8 weeks with 4 stitches over her left eye in her best friend's guest room at midnight, made a sound that Vincent Blackwood heard through a phone and felt in his whole body. "Bella, I'm here. What does it mean?" She was crying so hard she couldn't answer for a while. "He was cold," she finally said. "That's what it means. He was so cold, Vincent. 40 hours he sat in that room in a shirt, and I told him to get a coat, and he said he was fine, and I said, 'Nobody's fine, you're shaking,' and he—" She stopped, breathed. "He said, 'I've been cold for 6 years, ma'am. I stopped noticing.'" Vincent put his hand over his eyes. "And I said, 'Well, I noticed,'" Isabella said. "That's all. That's the whole conversation. I said, 'Well, I noticed.'" Neither of them spoke. "He was thanking me," Isabella whispered. "Vincent." He was standing on a bridge about to die, and he used his last message to thank me for noticing he was cold. At 12:04 a.m., Isabella Carter said, "Vincent, I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer it fast." "Okay." "When you heard the shots, what was the first thing you thought?" Vincent Blackwood sat on his floor and did not think about it. "I thought that could have been her car," he said. "And the second thing, I thought he was 41 years old." Isabella was quiet a long moment. "Okay," she said. "Bella, that's a real answer. That's all. That's okay." Her voice was thick. "Vincent, a week ago, the second thing would have been about you." At 8 a.m. on a Tuesday, 3 weeks later, Vincent Blackwood sat in a parked car outside a medical building for 2 hours and 14 minutes and did not go inside. Isabella came out at 10:14. She walked over to the car and stood at the window. "How long have you been here?" "A while." "Vincent, 2 hours. The appointment was at 9:45. "I know." "Then why—" "Because you didn't invite me," Vincent said. Isabella Carter stood there on a sidewalk with her hands in her coat pockets. "That's not fair," she said. "It's not supposed to be fair. It's just true." He looked up at her. "Bella, if I go in there, then I'm in there. Then it's done, and you never got to decide because I'm very good at being in rooms, and once I'm in one, nobody can get me out of it." His hands were on the wheel. "So I'm going to sit in the car, every time, for as long as it takes. And if you ever want me in that room, you're going to have to say it out loud, and I'm going to make you say it. And I know that's hard, and I'm doing it anyway." Isabella's jaw was trembling. "That's cruel," she said. "Yeah. That is so cruel, Vincent." "I know." "You're making me ask—" "Bella, I made you wait for 10 years, Vincent said. "You never once asked me for anything, and you know why. Because you knew what the answer was going to be, and you couldn't stand to hear it out loud. So you stopped asking. You just stood at doors and hoped." His voice broke. "So yeah, I'm going to make you ask, because the first time you ask me for something and I say yes, that's the day it starts. And I'd rather sit in this car for 2 years than steal that from you by walking in a room I wasn't invited to." Isabella Carter turned around and walked 6 steps away and stood with her back to him. Then she came back. "Heartbeat's 162, she said. "Bella, that's all you get today." She was crying. "That's all I've got, Vincent. 162. Go home." He went home. At 2:30 on a Thursday, 5 weeks later, Marcus Reed stood in a room with 9 men and watched Vincent Blackwood take an empire apart. "The Cicero routes go to Dolan," Vincent said. "Sir, the trucks go to Dolan. The book goes to Dolan. Everything west of Cicero Avenue goes to Dolan, and he pays me nothing for it." The room made a noise. "Sir, that's 40 years. "That's my father's 40 years, Vincent said. "Not mine. I never built anything, gentlemen. I inherited a machine, and I got very good at feeding it." He put his hands on the table. "I've got a daughter coming in November, and when she's 15 years old and she asks me what I do, I'm going to have an answer. And it's not going to be a lie, because I'm not going to spend one more day of my life being a man who lies to a woman in his own kitchen." Nobody moved. "Anybody who wants a piece can take a piece," Vincent said. "I mean that. Come to me. Tell me what you want. I'll sign it. and I'll shake your hand, and I'll never say your name again. But if you come at me sideways, and for 1 second, one last second, the old thing came up through him like something under ice. If you come at me sideways, gentlemen, I'm still Vincent Blackwood for about another 6 months, and I would love the excuse. Afterward, Marcus stood in the doorway. Sir, say it. You're going to be poor. I'm going to have about $9 million, Marcus. That's poor for you. Yeah, Vincent said. It is. Marcus Reed didn't laugh. Sir, there's 4 families in this city who've wanted your throat for 20 years, and the only reason they never took it is because they were scared of you. He stepped into the room. You take the machine apart, you're a man in a house. That's what you said you wanted. But Vincent, a man in a house, has a door. Vincent Blackwood looked at him for a long moment. Marcus, sir. Do you remember what Adrian said to me in the lift house? No, sir, I wasn't in the room. He said it doesn't stop. He said it just picks the next person. He said the only way out is somebody has to stand in the road and refuse to hand it on. Vincent's voice was very quiet. I've got a daughter coming, Marcus. If I keep this thing, then in 30 years, some man is going to stand in her kitchen and tell her it doesn't concern her. Marcus Reed put his hand over his face. Sir. So I'm standing in the road, Vincent said. That's it. That's the whole plan. It's not brave, it's arithmetic. At 6:45 on a Sunday in October, Isabella Carter opened her own front door, her own a rental in Oak Park with a kitchen the size of a closet, and a landlord who took 9 days to fix a faucet, and Vincent Blackwood was standing on the step with a bag of pretzels. She looked at the bag, then she looked at him. That's a low blow, she said. Yeah, that is a deeply low blow, Vincent. Ruth told me, he said, about the gas station, about the parking lot. She said you ate them for 2 days in that room, and you thanked her every time. Isabella Carter stood in her doorway with her hand on the frame and her belly out past her coat, and did not take the bag. Vincent. Yeah. I don't know how to do this. Neither do I. No, I mean... She stopped. Her eyes were wet. I don't know how to be a person who lets you in. That's the thing nobody tells you. I keep waiting to feel like it's safe, and I keep thinking when I feel it, I'll open the door. And Vincent, I don't think I'm ever going to feel it. Vincent nodded slowly. Then don't wait for it, he said. What? Bella, I waited 10 years to feel like a man who could open a gate, Vincent said. I never felt it. Not once. Not for a single second. His voice was shaking. You don't get the feeling first. That's the whole con. That's what I've learned in 3 months of sitting in cars. You do the thing, and then maybe someday the feeling shows up, and if it doesn't, you did the thing anyway, and the thing is what counts. Isabella Carter stood there for a long, long moment. Then she stepped back from her own door. Come in, she said. Bella, Vincent, get in the house before I change my mind. At 3:12 a.m. on the 4th of November, Vincent Blackwood was in a hospital hallway with his back against a wall and his hands over his face, and Clara Whitmore was sitting on the floor next to him. Vincent. Yeah. Breathe. I'm breathing. You're not breathing, you're doing a thing with your mouth. Clara, it's been 9 hours. It's been 9 hours because that's how long it takes. Clara Whitmore put her hand on his arm, and neither of them mentioned that it was the first time she had ever voluntarily touched him. Vincent, look at me. She's fine. Ruth is in there. Ruth Delaney has done this 400 times, and she is standing right next to her with her hands on her, and Isabella is fine, and you are going to breathe. Clara. What? I was in Miami, Vincent said. Clara went still. When her mother died. I was in Miami. He couldn't take his hands off his face. Marcus stood in a hallway for 6 hours and held her hand. Marcus. And I was in Miami, and I remember what I was doing, Clara. I remember it exactly. I was having dinner. Vincent. I was having dinner and somebody made a joke and I laughed. Vincent. He stopped. You're here now, Clara Whitmore said. It's not the same. No, it's not. Her hand tightened on his arm. It's not the same and it doesn't fix it, and she's going to remember Miami for the rest of her life. But Vincent, you are sitting on a floor in a hallway at 3 a.m, and there is nowhere on this earth you'd rather be, and everybody in this building knows it. Her voice cracked. So it's not the same. It's just the only thing there is. At 5:41 a.m., a nurse came out and said, Mr. Blackwood. Vincent Blackwood couldn't stand up. He tried. His legs wouldn't do it, and Clara Whitmore, who had slapped him across the face on her own front step in July, got underneath his arm and hauled a 200-pound man up off a hospital floor. "Go," she said. At 5:44 a.m., Vincent Blackwood walked into a room and his wife looked up at him. "You came," Isabella said, and she was smiling. That was the thing. 10 years of the two words in the wrong key, and she said them again in a room at 5 a.m, exhausted, gray, wrecked, with her hair stuck to her forehead. And she was smiling, and it was a joke. She was making a joke. Vincent Blackwood put his hand over his mouth and stood in that doorway and could not move. "Vincent, I'm here. Come look at your daughter. Look at, At 5:46 a.m., they put a 7-pound, 4-ounce girl in Vincent Blackwood's arms, and the most feared man in Chicago discovered that his hands did not work. "I'm going to drop her." "You're not going to drop her." "Bella, my hands." "Vincent." Isabella's voice was so tired and so calm. "Look at me. You're not going to drop her. Bend your elbow." He bent his elbow. And then Vincent Blackwood, 43 years old, stood in a hospital room holding 6 pounds of a person, and Isabella watched his whole face come apart in real time, and she didn't say a word because she'd been waiting 10 years to see it, and she wasn't going to interrupt. "Bella." "Yeah." "Yeah." "Bella, she's mad." Isabella Carter laughed out loud, and it hurt, and she didn't care. "She's been out for 4 minutes, and she's already furious," Vincent said, and his voice was completely gone. "Look at her face. Bella, look at her face. She's outraged. She takes after somebody." "She takes after you." "She does not." "Bella, she absolutely takes after you," Vincent said. "She came out of a door she didn't want to leave, and now she's letting the whole building know about it." And Isabella Carter, who had not laughed in front of that man in 4 years, put her hands over her face and laughed until she cried. At 6:20 a.m., Ruth Delaney stood in the doorway with her coat on. "Ruth." "I'm going home, honey. My shift ended 2 hours ago, and I've been standing here like a fool." "Ruth, come here." "Isabella." "Ruth Delaney, come here right now." Ruth came. Isabella took the older woman's hand and put it flat on the baby's back. "Feel that," she said. Ruth Delaney's mouth went. "Isabella." "That's what your hands did," Isabella said. "Ruth, look at me. That is what your hands did. Not the phone call, not the message. Your hands. You put your hands on me on a concrete floor at 2 a.m, and you kept her alive when nobody on earth would have known if you hadn't." Ruth Delaney started to cry. "They shake," she said. "They're not shaking now." And Ruth looked down at her own hand flat on the back of a newborn baby, and it was perfectly, absolutely still. At 7:02 a.m., Vincent Blackwood said, "Bella, we have to name her." "I know." "Bella. Don't say Rosalind." Vincent's head came up. "He told you," Isabella said. "He told me on the bridge. He told me not to." Vincent's throat moved. "He said, don't put my dead wife on your live child like a receipt. He said, that's the oldest thing you do, Vincent, and it's the thing you're going to have to kill." Isabella Carter nodded slowly. "He was right," she said. "He was right about everything." Vincent looked down at his daughter. "Bella, he was right about every single thing, and he was a monster. And he took you off a road, and he's the reason there's a scar over your eye, and he was right." "Both things are true. How do you live with that?" "You just do," Isabella said. "That's the whole answer, Vincent. There isn't a better one. Some people are the worst thing that ever happened to you, and they're also the reason you're standing here and you carry both, and you don't get to put either one down." Vincent Blackwood stood there with his daughter. "Then what do we name her?" "And Isabella." Carter looked at her husband for a long moment. "Ruth," she said. Vincent's face came apart. "Bella." "Because a woman with shaking hands sat on a concrete floor and fed me pretzels," Isabella said, "and it didn't cost her a thing to walk away, and she stayed anyway." Her voice broke wide open. "Vincent, that's the whole lesson. That's it. That's the only thing I want that child to know for the rest of her life. Not who saved her, not who was powerful, not who won. Just somebody had a choice, and it cost them everything, and they stayed." Vincent Blackwood put his forehead against his daughter's. Ruth, he said. At 7:04 a.m., Ruth Delaney, who was standing in the hallway waiting for the elevator, heard a sound come out of that room and turned around and asked a passing nurse, "Is somebody in trouble in there?" "No, ma'am," the nurse said. "I think somebody's crying." 14 months later, Vincent Blackwood sat on the floor of a small house in Oak Park with a landlord who took 9 days to fix a faucet, and a 1-year-old was hitting him in the face with a wooden spoon. Bella. She's hitting me. I see that. Bella, she's hitting me in the face with a spoon. You want me to stop her? Vincent Blackwood looked up at his wife. No, he said. They didn't remarry. Isabella wouldn't. She said the first one still counted, and she wasn't going to let him buy a fresh one. And Vincent said okay, and that was the end of it, and it was the easiest conversation of his life. They didn't move back to the house. Vincent sold it in March. He didn't tell anybody he was going to, and he didn't make a speech about it. And when Isabella found out, she said, "Where's the money?" And Vincent said, "Ruth's husband has a chair that fits through the door now, and Danny Kovac's daughter is at Northwestern, and Sienna's sister owns her building." And the rest? There isn't any rest. Isabella Carter had looked at him for a long moment. "Vincent," she'd said, "you just gave away $40 million, and you didn't tell me." "I know. That's the old thing." And Vincent Blackwood had stopped cold. "Yeah," he'd said, "that's the old thing. You did a good thing in secret so you could have it in your pocket. Yeah, don't do that." "Okay," Vincent had said. "Bella, I'm going to be doing the old thing for the rest of my life. I'm going to be doing it when I'm 80. Every day. It's in my hands." "I know," she'd said. "So tell me next time. That's all. That's the whole marriage. Just tell me next time." There's a gate at that house in Oak Park, if you can call it that. It's a fence gate. It's about 3 feet tall, and it doesn't lock, and a determined toddler can defeat it. Danny Kovac put it in. He wouldn't take money for it. He came out on a Saturday with a post hole digger and his own daughter, and he put it in, and he stayed for dinner. And when Vincent tried to say something at the table, Danny said, "Sir, don't," and Vincent said, "Okay," and that was that. It's the only gate Vincent Blackwood owns now. And on the night Isabella finally told him 2 years later on a porch at midnight, with a baby monitor between them, that she'd forgiven him, she didn't make a speech about it either. She said it the way you'd mention the weather. "Vincent, yeah, I stopped being angry." He didn't move. "When?" "I don't know. That's the stupid part." She was quiet. "That's what nobody tells you. There's no day. There's no moment. I kept waiting for the moment so I could hand it to you like a gift, and it never came. And then one day, I was standing in that kitchen and I realized it had already happened about a year ago, and I'd missed it." Vincent Blackwood sat on that porch and couldn't speak. "Bella, don't say anything big." "I wasn't going to." "Yes, you were." "Yeah," Vincent said. "I was." And Isabella Carter laughed in the dark and reached over and took his hand and held it easy like it was nothing, the way she had 10,000 times in 10 years. He never asked her whether she'd have come back if the car hadn't been run off that road. He wanted to. He wanted to for years. And then one day he understood that it was the last version of the old thing, the last time he'd ever try to put her on a scale and find out what he was worth, and he let it go, and he never picked it up again. Because here's what a man like Vincent Blackwood spends his whole life learning, and most of them never do. You can run a city. You can own every road in it. You can make a room go quiet just by walking into it, and you can spend 40 years believing that's the same thing as being loved. But love is not a thing you hold. It is a thing you answer, and it only ever asks you once at a gate in the rain on an ordinary night when nothing is wrong and nobody is watching, and it cost you nothing but 40 minutes and your pride. Isabella Carter stood at that gate for 10 years. And on the night she finally stopped waiting, she didn't scream, and she didn't beg, and she didn't threaten him. She simply turned the car around and became the one thing the most feared man in Chicago could never buy back, never frighten, never own, and never for the rest of his life stop trying to deserve.